away we go. And away we go. We might as well not kill any more time. What do you say? We got a lot of ridiculous stories to cover today, and I don't want to miss any of them. So what do you say we get right into it? Appreciate you, chat, once again for being here. Victor, what's going on, my brother? How are you? What's happening? What's going on, Will? What's going on, Julie? Gregory, how are you? What's up, Nola? Tina, good to see you. Good to see everybody. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. Jasper's mom, how are you? Lady Muddy Feet, what's going on? Good to see you. Jay, I see you in there. You can't hide from me. El Rondo, what's going on, everybody? Appreciate you guys. What's up, Forever Young? What's up, Dame Dog? Thank you guys to everyone in the Patreon family, the Patreon community, for showing up last night for the VIP Zoom. You guys can also get involved with those by signing up at patreon.com/Boston. Brian, big salute and a big shout out to everybody that joined us. What's going on, Sean? What's up, Cass? How are you guys? Make sure you hit that like button on the way in. It is Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, and we got some wild, wacky, crazy stories to talk about. A couple of things that will be discussed today. Obviously, Trump's worst Oval Office sleeping session yet. I mean, this is during a wild and wacky anti-vax press conference to begin with. But the fact that this guy was struggling this hard to keep his eyes open, and it was this obvious that he was basically sleeping in front of the world, we got to take a look at it. We got to talk about it. And then we got wild reporting that reveals that Donald Trump basically slunked away from Air Force One in Turkey, basically on a food truck, a food trolley, whatever you want to call it, something that looks like it's, delivering the prepared meals and delivering the food to an aircraft. So he basically slunked away on one of these to get to the smaller aircraft, thus leaving the press corps, thus leaving his whole staff aboard this Air Force One. Apparently, because of the Iranian threats were very credible, and this aircraft didn't have the mitigatory weapons to make sure that they could protect the people on that. Didn't matter. Still let everybody fly on it. So we'll be talking about that crazy reporting as well. And then we got see surrounding the U.S. demands about reparations for a war that we started. Donald Trump putting out there, trying to kind of like one up, if you will, the recent reporting that the Iranians and the Omanis are kind of sticking to their guns as far as their demands for reopening the Strait of Hormuz and ending this conflict. Well, Donald Trump thought he'd kind of, he'd combat that with saying that we are now demanding reparations for, again, the war that we started in conjunction with Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. We also have Benny Johnson. I know we don't like to take a look at this asshole's face too much, but he's forced to finally admit defeat in Iran. He doesn't say it like that, right? He's not going to put it in those terms for his audience, but he's in there basically talking about Donald Trump's willingness to run away from the Iran war with no nuclear deal, basically with his tail tucked between his legs. And Benny Johnson's okay with that. He's okay with that because of the frustrations that he's been showing recently over the continuous reporting of a deal being around the corner. We're a deal today. It's going to be a deal tomorrow. Like we showed a video recently in one of our recent shows that he was expressing real frustration about this, like Groundhog's Day, I think he called it, as far as Barack Ravid's reporting, Trey Ying's reporting on Fox News, and again, people like Scott Besson saying there's going to be a deal done any single day now. So he's got another one, and he's forced to admit defeat. Finally, we have Ukraine destroyed a large Russian armored convoy, kind of a switch in tactics, if you will, something we haven't seen much recently. We've seen like smaller incursions, we've seen smaller attacks and, tanks and other equipment being taken out. But this is a pretty large and substantial armored convoy that was put together by Russia, which, again, Ukraine seemingly had no problem wiping out. So we have some videos, I believe, from Dennis Davidoff, if I'm not mistaken, on that one. And then we also have a Battle Plans Exposed update surrounding what's going on in Crimea, in and around Crimea. So I think we'll take a look at that during the second half of the show. But much appreciated. Thank you guys for everything that you guys have been responsible for, especially the mods here. Big shout out to the mods, W mods in the chat, and W chat in general. I really do. I'm so grateful for everything that you guys have done for this channel. Whether it's the Patreon community, whether it's the people that sign up for the YouTube memberships just underneath me, whether it's the people that gift those YouTube memberships out to fantastic people in the chat, people that send in super stickers or hit milestones for memberships or send in the super chats that you can do in the YouTube chat. That's fantastic. The bits over there on Twitch, thank you and shout out to everybody on Twitch. Shout out to everybody on Facebook and obviously Instagram and Substack. Tech, where, again, we do not charge for you guys to watch. We have no content that's hidden behind a paywall. There are no ads that are going to be interrupting this podcast or live stream today. There are no financial backers of this channel. It is solely the generosity shown by you guys and the appreciation, hopefully, that you guys have in the show that we put together. So big shout out to you guys, everybody there in the chat. Thank you. Look at Lucius here, starting it off in the right direction with a couple jewels. Thank you for the couple jewels in the silver star there, Lucius. Much appreciated. Good to see you. What's up, Bethany? How are you guys? Alyosha, how are you, brother? Good to see you. Thank you for everything that you do for this community as well. All right, what do you say we jump into a little bit of the nonsense, a little bit of the craziness? We're going to start off with Donald Trump fast asleep in the Oval Office. Hold on, let me throw this on the screen. I could probably share it. It'd be fantastic. Probably going to be tough to do a live stream if you don't share what you're looking at there, Bri. All right, let's throw this on the screen. Get this up there for you guys. Add it to the old stage Ruski, and then we should do that. How's that? All right. Yeah, this is what we're going to do. This is, posted by Aaron Rupar, but noticed by everybody on the planet. And this is just a single cut from this. I think it was like a 45-minute press conference, just ridiculous anti-vax shit with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and this psychopath and whoever this woman is. There's some conspiracy theories already floating around out there, which we'll go over. But this is insane, okay? I know this has been normalized because of how much we see this, but to have the president of the United States, the commander-in-chief of the fucking armed forces at a time we're engaged in a devastating and destabilizing war in the Middle East and getting our asses handed to us, like this is what we're presenting to the world as far as power projection. Is this? I mean, this is insanity, right? I hope everybody knows that. I hope everybody is again just too caught up in the ridiculousness of the MAGA movement and Donald Trump, in particular, to not recognize the lunacy of what we're looking at here, and people just going about their daily business, right? Fucking RFK Jr. just talking, and there's a clip out there where he can't even hold the paper. He's reading off a paper and he's shaking like he hasn't had a fucking a cigarette in 2 weeks, and he smokes 30 packs a day or something. You know what I mean? He's on there. He can't even read off the fucking thing. He's shaking so much. And this is the guy we got in charge of our health services in this country. But yeah, let's take a look at this 40-second clip here of Donald Trump literally just not being able to keep his eyes open, right? There's, you can have the debate whether or not he's sleeping or just incredibly tired and fighting fighting for his life to keep his eyes open. But this is not the power projection, again, that you want to present to the world out there by your commander in chief and the person that's supposed to be running your country here as the president of the United States. Check this. This is wild shit. And again, like I said, not the first time by any stretch of the imagination that we've seen this. And that's why I think it's kind of like, people see it and they're like, oh, well, again, he's falling asleep in the Oval Office, but we can't let this be normalized, right? I mean, again, for the administration that went on and on and on and on about Joe Biden and his health, to come in and this is what he presents to everybody is fucking asinine. So check this out real quick.
Take this extremely seriously as
we
have in the last year and a half.
Look at him.
And more of the presidency.
He's done. He's gone.
At the NIH.
And everybody knows clearly that look of somebody that just woke up. Right. Somebody that look of somebody that's, kind of half asleep, struggling to keep their eyes open, whether it's on a flight or, a late night at the office or whatever it may be, your spouse after a long day of work. When they're sitting on that couch and, you kind of catch them falling asleep and they maybe don't want to admit it, like that look when they first open their eyes and they're like, okay, where the fuck am I type of look that they get. That's what's happening right here. That is you cannot, there's no denying what's happening here. This look that you're seeing on your screen, like the half eye open turtle look, that's like, okay, I cannot be here anymore. I need a bed. I can't keep my eyes open in the middle of the goddamn day as the president of the United States. Crazy.
What we've done is we have established the Autism Data Science Initiative, which started almost a year more.
That's
more than a year ago.
Oh, gone later.
We funded a dozen and more.
Yeah. Oh, I'm here. Nope. I'm away. Oh shit. Look at that look right there is the look of a guy that's like, okay, what time is The Price is Right on? Did I miss The Price is Right? At least can I catch Jeopardy? Is Jeopardy, or maybe did somebody TiVo it? Maybe did somebody happen to TiVo last night's Jeopardy? Ah, shit. I feel like I missed the organized breakfast. That look right there is a look of a guy that needs help, that needs assistance, okay, to get through his daily life. That's that look right there. That's a guy that says, I am a a psychotic human being that stays up all hours of the night tweeting and putting bullshit on fucking on social media. And then during the day when it's very necessary to be awake and alert and you know, kind of involved in these like high level communications and discussions that are going on about, you know, geopolitics, obviously domestic politics, you cannot keep your goddamn eyes open. You know, and what did remember Marco Rubio was like, I've never seen him fall asleep ever. I can't recollect the time ever seeing him close his eyes. As a matter of fact, it's a problem because he calls me at all hours of the, yeah. Well, this is the result of somebody, a psychopath that calls you at all hours of the night about random stupid shit and then can't keep his eyes open during the day. And these people just continue on. Like, this is the nonsense of the cult. Right? This is how the cult works. Like, their leader could be hitting himself and falling asleep right next to you, but don't acknowledge it. Just continue on with the speech, continue on with the interview, plow forward. At some point, somebody will kick the chair or something and wake him up. Like, you can't make a scene. You can't make a scene. You can't point it out. You have to toe the party line. You have to continue to be like, oh, this is the Messiah. Obviously, yes, that guy's sitting in his soiled diaper, struggling to keep his eyes open, like he's sitting in the home.
Autism.
Look at that! Look at that! Look!
Phenomenon. It's not going to be a simple answer.
Unfucking believable, this guy.
The secretary said, potentially genetic predisposition, but that cannot possibly explain why we've seen such a large rise.
And you can see fucking, I don't know who Miss Nods is here. She must be like the world champion nod artist or something, because they brought her in just to yep, I do absolutely nothing. I have no role whatsoever. I have no clue what you're talking about, nor can I reaffirm anything that you're discussing right now. But I'm gonna sit here and nod my head. I'm gonna continue to nod. Do I keep nodding? Okay, a nod. Sounds good. Sounds great. Don't know what those words mean, but you know what I mean? And he's again fast asleep. Once again, he's out. And there's some conspiracy theories. There are some conspiracy theories going on about this this young lady's involvement here. And I'm not much of the tinfoil hat guy, but you know, I figure we might as well go over it. If people are talking about it, we might as well go over it. But this is posted to Twitter by Tim Brannigan. Not sure who it is, but this is just, you know, the discussion that's out there. It says, claims she had a button fitted on her belly, and when she gets the nod that he's asleep, she moves her hand and presses a button that wakes him up. They're calling her the Zapper. No idea if it's true, but it appears to line up, which is kind of crazy, right? Because at a few instances in this little press conference that he gave when he falls asleep, like she does put her hand like in her, I don't know what you'd call it, like in midsection, right? And then as soon as she does that, or around the time that she does that, Donald Trump all of a sudden gets like a you know, something shocks him awake, you know what I mean? Something causes him to open his eyes, and there was no like loud noises, there was no change in the sound in the room or anything like that would have done it. So again, like I said, not a big tinfoil hat guy, but a lot of people you know, speculating as to what her role might be in trying to keep this guy awake. And if that's her role, she failed miserably. Can we put that out there too? Can we all can we all acknowledge this together? Like, if she was sent out there to keep this guy awake, she fucking needs to be fired immediately. Like, next, who's next in this hamster wheel of young pretty ladies that are, you know, going to be allowed to be around Donald Trump to smell his farts in his shitty diaper to try to keep him awake, because she sucks at her job, if that's what her job is. But check this out, and then look at like when she puts her hand over her midsection, and then compare that to when Donald Trump like kind of gets jolted awake by something here. Check this out. It's a real quick clip, only about 16 seconds.
More than a year ago, where
so he's out.
Funded a dozen and more.
Now look at her. Watch her. So she kind of looks at what looks seemingly could be somebody in the front row or somebody within the press corps there, and she's like, "Oh fuck, he's asleep. Okay, hold on. Let me get buzz him. Let me buzz him in, and then watch Donald Trump's reaction."
Answer the question of what is the.
Oh yep. Okay, something was there.
Complicated biological phenomenon. It's not going to be
you know, it's just like, it's kind of creepy how there was a few times, right? And I have the, I don't know if I kept it up, but I did have the whole thing pulled up here as far as zip it. Sorry, the video is playing in the background. But I did have the whole press conference pulled up as far as the 40 minutes. But I don't think it's necessary to subject you guys to the whole 40 minutes. But this video on YouTube was getting a lot of play. And like I said, I typically don't need body language experts or, people in the medical field to tell me what's blatantly obvious is that he's in a very steep mental and cognitive decline, that he's definitely got a lot of health issues going on, that he's slurring, that he can't stay awake, and that's a huge issue, and probably, a sign of some underlying issues that are going on. So, but this has been getting a lot of play. I think this has got like about 115,000 views in just under 15 hours or just over 15 hours. And this is by, I believe, a psychologist and a body language expert. And I just wanted to kind of get his opinion, his take a little bit on this like blatant sleeping by the president of the United States in front of the world as people are speaking around him about anti-vax nonsense and putting children and people in harm's way as far as the misinformation that they're putting out into the airwaves. So again, we don't have to go through the whole thing. This is about a 9-minute video, but I figured if we just kind of dip dive and dodge our way through this video, it'd be kind of interesting to see what he has to say. This is Dr. G Explains, credit where credit is due, on YouTube here. Got about 732,000 subscribers, so clearly I'm late to the party as far as this is concerned. He says, shock and reason, Trump can't stay awake, psychology and body language. So again, being a body language expert, just curious what he has to say. I saw I was getting a lot of traction, a lot of play here on YouTube. So like I said, just curious what's going on here. We'll dive our way through this.
Well, as a body language expert, and today we're going to be exploring why it is that President Trump keeps falling asleep. Before we get started with this, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're going to be analyzing today is President Trump's inability to stay awake during an executive order signing on vaccines. And as I've talked about in other recent videos, President Trump appears to be exhibiting a wide variety of worsening neurological symptoms, such as slurring words, getting confused, falling asleep, as we're going to look at today. All right, let's just jump right in.
Including autism in particular.
And like I said, for what it's worth, you don't need, and I'm sure that you guys in the chat don't need any expert or person in the field that understands what's going on to tell you what you see with your eyes every single day, that this guy's losing it, has lost it, can't speak, has even his limited vocabulary that he's had for his lifetime has become even more limited. He thinks he's saying words, but they're not real words. He thinks he understands phrases, but that's not the phrase and the way that it's supposed to be said. Like it's clear. The bruising on his hands, the rash on his neck. The list continues. His just, the degradation physically of Donald Trump, the wrinky, saggy skin that gets worse and worse by the day, the hair that gets thinner and thinner before he gets a toupee, before he gets a blowout or whatever he had done recently to kind of fix his hair so that the pink scalp wasn't shining through anymore. But I don't need people to tell me this, and I'm not the person that typically listens to somebody out there speculating like a specific time frame that Donald Trump's going to leave this mortal coil. I understand he's old, he's dying, his health is degrading. But again, I don't think anybody knows or has any clue or indication as to the specific time frame. So I get kind of annoyed when people are out there like, oh, it's going to happen in 2 weeks. It's like, you kind of sound like Trump in some extent by, just saying in every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. And then when it happens, you're going to what? Take credit for it happening, but you've been saying it for the last 2 years. So, but anyway, excuse me, before I get off on a tangent, this is, like I said, this is the body language expert reading of why Donald Trump can't stay awake, at least.
Thank the man who has done more than perhaps anyone else to bring about this.
I want you to listen right now for the way he enunciates these words. We're going to get to him falling asleep in just a minute, but this is the very, very beginning.
Real revolution, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy. I've always slurred my words at some points, but typically not to this extent. But it's gotten really worse. It really has. It's gotten substantially worse since my mental and physical cognitive decline.
Friend, and he's doing a fantastic job. I'm proud of you giving me that one, that very powerful hand to use. Strong
and
guy.
What was that sentence? And he points it out too, like the fact that Trump thinks he's saying a complete and full sentence, and he thinks he's getting these words out, but he's just not. They're coming out mumbled. They're coming out incorrect. He's either pronouncing them wrong or he's getting the order of the words incorrect. Like he just did it there. Ready? Well, listen to this sentence that he tries to say to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I think he's trying to say he has strong hands, I believe is what he's trying to get across, but the words just don't come out of Donald Trump's mouth. Listen up.
Revolution, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., my friend, and he's doing a fantastic job. I'm proud of you. Give me one a very powerful hand to use.
Come on, what I got. Like he knows what he's trying to say. He thinks he knows what he's trying to say, but it's just like the brain is not functioning at the same time. The synapses aren't going at the same time as the mouth. The mouth needs to get the words out, but the brain just hasn't quite calculated it to the extent that Donald Trump, needs it to in order for the words to come out clearly. So it happens. It's happening more and more often, which is why you're seeing him kind of less and less. If it's late at night, they try to keep it short and sweet, where it used to be these, hour and a half, 2 hour long fucking discussions and speeches that he would give. Now it's a lot shorter. It's the 15, 20, maybe 40 or so minutes that he's given. And then they're trying to, wrap things. Okay, press. Everybody's getting fucking kicked out, because they understand the longer he goes, the more evident it's going to become that he's, sundowning, if it's late at night, they're really scripting the way that the audience sees Donald Trump now, much like they did with FDR. Right. And I think that was kind of like a co-opt between the government and the media at the time, where they were, trying to shield the public from noticing FDR's disabilities and kind of what he needed to do to get around and, holding on to people if he was standing up, the whole 9 yards. I'm sure if you're up to speed on your history, you've heard that before. Well, similar aspect here of, a lot of the times you're seeing Donald Trump and he's already set. You don't see him up and down too much. If you do, you see him walking onto or out of Air Force One or the helicopter. You notice that he's he's struggling to get down the stairs, both because he's frightened and afraid of falling on his face in front of cameras, much like he tells everybody almost every single time. And obviously his physical decline, right? His knees or his hips or, his feet or, he's had a problem with his leg and struggling to kind of walk in a straight line has become more and more an issue with him as well. So all of these problems that you can line up here, but let's see what else he dives into.
See, he misses words. He thinks he's saying things correctly and he doesn't even realize how badly he's messing up what he's trying to say.
Fantastic job. I'm proud of you. Give me one a very powerful hand to use. Strong guy, by the way.
Now that Trump's done speaking and RFK Jr. is speaking, you're going to see him very quickly.
And it's just weird anyway. Like much like a lot of people have been pointing out Donald Trump's willingness again to call out the what you want to call it, the sexual looks of men recently and calling them good looking and handsome and pointing that shit out. Like he thinks he's getting a certain message across, but it's not really, like I say, the flex that he thinks it is. Like even talking about RFK's strong hands, the way they was like, that's weird. It's fucking weird to be like, yeah, this guy's got really strong hands. Like, it's strange shit to say no matter who you are.
Because we were just noticing it more. We would notice it.
Just no, and then RFK comes into like he can't. He's sitting there shaking he can't hold the paper straight in this whole thing. Watch it. Right, hold on, I'll skip forward. Let me see if I'll skip forward. I don't know if they show RFK. Obviously, it's more focused on Donald Trump. No, they don't show RFK. But if you go back and you watch the press conference, you look at a couple of clips of the press conference, RFK is shaking like a fucking leaf in a windstorm, for Christ's sake. Can't hold the goddamn thing straight. All right, let's go on here.
Actually notable, because here's some awareness that he is drifting. And he doesn't have the good judgment to realize that everybody's watching him right now. He really is having a hard time thinking through these situations.
Who were born around 1989 or after.
They were born around 1989 or after, and I'm gonna pretend to be a scientist, and I don't know shit about what I'm talking about right now, and it's all pretty much misinformation. But Donald Trump loves it, so I'm gonna continue on with this shaking in front of everybody.
Increases. So something happened.
Did you see that right there? That's exactly where you saw him fully fall asleep. Watch this again.
The older generations are not seeing those increases. So something happened in the mid 90s that changed our children, and it has to be an environmental exposure. Because genes.
See, there's some confusion right there. Nodding his head, trying to go along with what's being said.
And what the president has charged us with is finding which one of those exposures or which collection.
He's fucking struggling. He is the captain of the struggle bus right now, trying to keep his eyes open. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do.
Exposures.
And there he goes again.
Look at that. Look is unreal.
Finding which one of those exposures or which collection of exposures.
And there he goes again.
Look at that. That is craziness. And unfortunately, I seem to have done the oh, my bad. This is brutal. I've done the double time stop. You know what I mean? The double pose here. They're both do. looks like he's mimicking Donald Trump's face at this moment. So my apologies with the pause. But I'm only pausing to show this right here. Like, look at this fucking mess of a human being. Like, this is the president of the United States. Okay. Let's let that sink in at this point in time. A guy that cannot keep his goddamn eyes open in the middle of the goddamn day is the president of the United States and commander-in-chief of our armed forces. As I continue to reiterate, we are engaged in this incredibly destabilizing and destructive war that continues to rage on with no end in sight, and the United States pretty much getting cut out of the deal. Like, remember how we've talked about like Scott Bessent and Trump trying to piggyback on the negotiations happening between Iran and Oman? Well, it's more and more people are starting to recognize, and more companies and more countries are starting to recognize that the power and control afforded to Iran and Oman as far as the Strait of Hormuz is the better option than obviously full-scale escalatory war that is likely to be seen if Donald Trump is allowed to control or order what happens next in this war. Like, that's the countries are cutting out the United States and being like, listen, we're just going to accept what Iran wants. We're going to accept what Omani said. Like, they want 3%, they want 7%. Like, can we just please the United States agree to give them their frozen funds? Like, let's just get this over with. Nobody can deal with any more of this bombing. It's not getting anybody anything. It's just destroying the region. We're just expending billions of dollars of munitions. We're wasting our stockpile of interceptors, and we have other bad actors around the world that we need to worry about. And right now, we just want this over with. We want the strait opened, and if you could just give Iran whatever they want, that would be fantastic. And that's happening more and more. You've seen it with Israel, right? We just heard from Benjamin Netanyahu, basically alerted CENTCOM to the fact that, listen, Israel, Netanyahu saying, we don't need the United States permission. We don't need we don't need to do this in compliance with the United States. If we decide that we want to continue bombing Iran, we're going to continue bombing Iran. Whether you guys say yes or no, whether you guys want to help or not, doesn't fucking matter. So, again, showing the fact that they're anything but allies, and everybody in this chat knows that. Just look at that one specific issue where they say basically pound sand United States, giving us the bird, saying we don't give a fuck if you think we're going to continue to destabilize the region or not. If this is going to get in the way of peace agreements and negotiations, we're going to continue doing our thing with your weapons and your aid that you've been sending over for generations at this point. So don't get me started on that whole aspect, not to get sidetracked. But all right, let's see here if there's any more from this.
Again, now I already know what people are going to say because I get comments about this all the time when I talk about these types of things in other videos, which is, well, he's 80 years old. It's normal for him to be tired. This is not normal behavior, even if somebody is 80. I get that that's an advanced age, but that doesn't explain when you're sitting in front of lights around a lot of other people how you would fall asleep. What does explain it is either neurological problems, post-stroke behavior, some sort of neurological impairment that is causing this. For example, if somebody has a stroke and it affects their hypothalamus or their thalamus or a number of other regions of the brain, it can cause excessive sleepiness. So it's very possible that there is damage in part of the brain that contributes to this behavior. His age,
and I do believe the hippopotamus section of Donald Trump's brain is severely damaged, or whatever he just said.
Really does not explain this behavior.
Is finding which one of those exposures or which collection of exposures are causing this epidemic. For decades,
I'd rather chew broken glass than listen to RFK talk, right? Mix broken glass with rocks, nails, screws, staples, razor blades, possibly, definitely. Like, I would rather chew on those all day long combined with like sour Skittles even than listen to RFK talk for 13 fucking seconds.
For a simple principle, when it comes to the health of our children, government has an obligation to follow.
He's gone. Like, that's like, I'm telling you, like, you can fall asleep. Oh, thank you, Colleen. Oh, let's go. Unbelievable. Thank you so much, Colleen. As a retired 32-year registered nurse in multiple areas, ending in hospice care, I cared for hospice patients with more mental capacity and clarity than this whole administration. Vote. Absolutely, Colleen. So you probably have some pretty good insight into this area as well, and what you're looking at, kind of what you're seeing and where it leads to as well. Like, this isn't something that's going to all of a sudden be reversed. And thank you so much, Colleen, for that incredibly substantial super chat. Unbelievable of you to contribute that much to this channel, and obviously making a very poignant point as well. So thank you so much. Thank you, Nola, right behind Colleen as well with the $5 super chat. Thank you, and right back at you, Nola. Hi. I'll get my words down eventually, I promise. But hi back to you, Nola. I appreciate you. But yes, like, this isn't something that's going to be all of a sudden like reversed. Okay, there's no magical drug that Donald Trump's not already on at this point that's all of a sudden going to make him like cognitively aware. It's going to like be able to recover his IQ or anything like that. Like, it's not happening. This is only going to get worse and worse as the days progress. Basically, as the hours progress, this continues to get worse, and it gets even more blatant and embarrassing. Like, combine what's going on with our military right now, and no disrespect to anybody that has served, is serving, or will serve in our armed forces, but the position that Donald Trump has placed our armed forces in right now is not a good one. It is not being shown in a good light. The power projection that we continue to talk about, and it being degraded even as far as optically on the world stage, is a fucking problem. So at the same time, we're talking about the inability for the U.S. military, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, in conjunction with the IDF, Mossad, Netanyahu, and Israel, unable to, as a team, take down the Iranian regime, topple the Iranian regime in a way where they could, actively say that they had, affected some regime change, or again, degraded their military capacities or capabilities to an extent where nobody had to worry about them, or the whole denuclearization aspect. None of those things have been, achieved thus far. But if you take the stockpile limitations and shortages with the Tomahawks, ATACMs, Patriots, THAADs, and there's more munitions on the list as well. You take a look at the fact that Feinberg, Pete Hegseth's underling, after the feud between Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump at Camp David about these specific shortages and the lies, apparently, allegedly, that Donald Trump was told about how long this war was going to last, the military, the military readiness of the United States to engage in this war, and if it did go south, if like, what's the saying? I'm sure anybody that served in the military know, like, the plan's only as good as the first bullet is fired. Like, as soon as the first bullet is fired, like, it's every man for themselves, or you're fighting for the guy next to you, and it kind of, the plan goes to shit. Everybody kind of knows, and I'm probably butchering the phrase to some extent, but I'm sure it got across. But you can't have the commander-in-chief of the armed forces snoozing, sleeping, having our enemies look at this guy fucking, on his third dream in the Oval Office as people are just doing their daily work around him, and at the same time recognize our shortages and stockpiles, recognize the bad position that Donald Trump has placed our military in as far as optically power projection, like we've talked about, like all of these things combined, and it's just setting up the rife opportunity for the Kim Jong-uns, for the Xi Jinpings, for these bad actors all over the planet to do their dirty deeds, to say, okay, now is our time to strike, when they're vastly low on stockpiles, when they have no interceptors, when their allies are vastly low on interceptors, when Israel is vastly low on interceptors, when Ukraine is vastly low, if not empty, on interceptors. Like, this is not looking good as far as where Donald Trump has got us to, with the instability on the world stage and our readiness to combat that instability. We just don't seem to have it. And we've remarked time and again on this show about the pre-war level stockpiles, and how, I wouldn't look at that in my, my layman's self, in my non-military strategist mind, and look at those stockpiles and say, yes, you know what, those are the levels that I would be comfortable with, going to war and trying to, take out or topple this regime. If it goes sideways, we still are comfortable with the fact that we have, exponentially more Patriots and THAADs than China, or or Russia or North Korea or anybody else has missiles that they can shoot at us, if in fact we have to combat different bad actors in different, theaters of war in different geographical locations on this planet, because that's what the military readiness of the United States need to take into account, to be able to project its power in different geographical locations at the same time and still have the military readiness and capabilities to continue those fights and to continue projecting and securing our security, whether it's international waterways or, again, the security of our homeland in general. But it's crazy to see all of these things happening and what must be going through the minds of the Xi Jinpings, of the Vladimir Putins, of the Kim Jong-uns, of the Erdogan. Like, the list just continues to go on as far as people that are salivating, looking at the United States in his weakened state, in with our allies in our weakened state, and being like, okay, now if we feel like we are going to strike at some point, now is the time to strike. So we've seen that with the Houthis, in expanding the war in the Middle East. We talked about a strike just the other day that took out, I think, some 56 government officials. We've seen time and time again in continued attacks in ships in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. We've seen continued attacks in ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. We've seen oil refineries in Libya being attacked by God knows who. So it seems to be expanding much more than it seems to be, heading towards an off-ramp or a conclusion, or it's the finality of war, as it were. But it remains to be seen what kind of comes out of this. But this is not looking good to the United States. And again, people looking at this on the outside looking in, just laughing. Right, we're embarrassed to shit, and everybody else is just laughing in the faces of the United States, and again, dealing with their own instability, dealing with their own economic ramifications of Donald Trump's actions in their own country too.
A simple principle when it comes to the health of our children.
Let's see here. I think we've beaten that sleeping horse enough. But let's go on here to this ridiculous and crazy reporting that's been coming out now about Donald Trump's plane swap. Because this is wild, and I think it raises more questions about the domestic attempts on Donald Trump's life, or the alleged domestic attempts on Donald Trump's life, because the way that they seem to be taking the threats from Iran seriously, whether that be with this plane swap coming out of Turkey, the new pictures and the reporting suggesting and showing that Donald Trump literally has Army air defenses next to him on the golf course. Anytime that he's golfing now, he's got drones in the air circling constantly. Let's see if I don't know if I can pull up that picture real quick before we dive into this. Let's see, Trump golf air defense. That should at least point me in the right direction. Let's see, images. No, those are all AI images. I don't need an AI image. I need the real image. Let's see here, Trump. Oh, because I don't want gold. I want golf. Let's see if that changes things. Yeah, here we go. So just real quick. This is Trump. You can see here on the left-hand side of your screen in that first picture right here. Obviously, Trump taking a swing. And this is the air defense battery that is literally next to Donald Trump, surrounded by barbed wire. This is how serious they're taking the threats, on Donald Trump's life as far as by the Iranians, right? But what this is kind of raising as far as questions is, what the fuck was going on with the domestic attacks then? Why was Donald Trump allowed to get up and raise his fist in the line of fire of a sniper that clearly had him fucking targeted and sighted? You know what I mean? Why was the flag allowed to be lowered? Why was the Secret Service ushering the photographers into place to get the perfect picture? Why was he allowed to ask for his fucking loafers? Was the first thing out of Donald Trump's mind was his sneakers, his shoes, right? As he allegedly just got shot in the air. This is raising a whole lot. Why was Donald Trump allowed to fucking peek through the curtains at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in that attack, right? Why was he allowed to just sit there behind the scenes? And why? All of a sudden, and again, as we go through this new reporting, talking about the extents that Donald Trump actually went through how fearful fearful of his life he was, how seriously they took the Iranian threats, how they recognized that the Qatari jet turned into Air Force One didn't have the appropriate response measures, didn't have the appropriate anti-defense measures to secure anybody on that aircraft, but still allowed the press corps, still allowed Donald Trump's staff and the Air Force One staff to fly on that plane, knowing it didn't have the defense capabilities that it needed. If Iran did suspect that Donald Trump was still on this fucking airplane and did decide to make an attempt on his life, it was the press corps and the Air Force One, staff and Donald Trump's staff that was left on this plane that was going to pay the ultimate price, not Donald Trump, because he slunked away in a fucking taco truck, loading the Air Force One up with as much fucking burger and tacos as it could possibly handle. And this fat, orange, wrinkly fuck decided to have to, hide himself away in that thing and secretly maneuver himself to another aircraft. Listen to this shit. It's wild. Again, the juxtaposition between how seriously and the levels in which that they're taking the Iranian threats and the way in which they're treating these, alleged domestic attempts on Donald Trump's life. So it's raised more questions than it's given answers as far as this is concerned. But this is Washington Post reporting. It says, contradicting public statements, Trump took secret flight from Turkey amid Iranian threat. The White House said that the president was aboard Air Force One as he left a NATO summit. Instead, his departure included an elaborate ruse that concealed his travel. And I'm sure you remember the reporting of the plane swap and Donald Trump coming up with this huge story about sending the aircraft to some fucking military base because they wanted the soldiers to come out and clap and take a look at the plane, like all horse shit, right? Didn't sound believable, plausible to begin with, and now we're finding out more about why that story had to be concocted here. So it says, an Iranian assassination threat against President Donald Trump prompted an extraordinary operation last month in which he flew secretly from Turkey on an alternate military aircraft, while the White House said he was aboard Air Force One. The Washington Post has learned. The clandestine mission, and again, this is just ridiculous levels to show you how seriously they took these threats, as opposed to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, as opposed to any of the lunatics that showed up to Donald Trump's golf courses, as opposed to the Butler event and any other of the attempts that we could talk about, whether in action or just threatened. Like, they don't seem to be taking the same precautions by any stretch of the imagination surrounding Donald Trump domestically with the domestic threats. Like, I know that picture that we just showed was Trump golfing domestically, but the threats and the reason that this is so close to him and why he's taking this level of precautions has nothing to do with domestic, threats. Maybe to some level, based upon the anger of the civilian population here, of the citizenry and the lies and the economic positions. I'm sure that's to some extent, but I don't think that they suspect that a civilian, somebody pissed off at Donald Trump, is going to try to fly a ballistic or hypersonic missile or like a Shahed drone anytime soon into one of his golf courses. I'm sure it would be one of the more closely affiliated or related to one of the morons that showed up to one of his golf courses, right? So, but this distinct air defense in the background that you're seeing shows a very explicit threat, right? They're worried about a very specific thing happening while he's on the golf course. And there's been some other posts that we could go through as well. Here's one by Nick Sordor, which is a MAGA prick on Twitter, who's trying to, again, flex this. He's trying to flex how scared, how serious the threats were against the president's life and the reasons behind those threats and the, I guess, incapability of Donald Trump and this aircraft to protect the president of the United States. Again, revealing how ridiculous this, $400 million Qatari jet is that, the United States taxpayers paid somewhere in the vicinity of $1 billion, probably somewhere closer to $2 billion of taxpayer money to refit, to refurbish, and it's still not to the levels and never will be to the levels where the Secret Service or the government or people, tasked to protect Donald Trump or the presidency in and of itself will be, can trust that aircraft to do the jobs that it needs to do to protect that president. So this is Nick Sorda trying to, like I said, flex this on people for some reason. This is how delusional and deluded these people have to be at this point. It says, wow, President Trump outsmarted Iranian threats in Turkey by jumping in a catering truck to swap planes when the world thought he was on the legacy Air Force One. This is James Bond. This is a James Bond style mission, he writes. And it's just like, I don't remember or recall any of the James Bond movies where James had to fucking slunk away, right? Where he was like sneaking away from the bad guys. Like, he's always going at the bad guys. Like, he's always the one taking it to the bad guys and searching them out, seeking them out. And he's coming up with these like different plans and ploys like to put himself wherever they're going to be. Not like, how can I get away from these people? Like, it's just unreal. And it says here, President Trump boarded Air Force One in Turkey while a Secret Service agent in a suit jumped in a catering truck, and we'll show you the whole breakdown here, and then signaled POTUS into the truck's bed while it was connected to Air Force One's starboard side. POTUS got in, and the truck moved over to a smaller Air Force C-32 next to Air Force One before dropping him off. The planes then flew to the UK, with POTUS being snuck back on to new Air Force One, which was waiting for him on the tarmac. Absolutely incredible work by the Secret Service. God bless them. And again, posting this as a flex is wild. To be like, we have such a fucking bitch-ass pussy in office that these are the extents that we had to go through. We didn't protect any of the press corps or anybody else flying on this plane, but we needed to get this one scaredy cat off the plane because of how seriously the threats were. But here's kind of like a little clip explaining it. I don't think there's any sound, but it'll point out the food truck in the background here. So there's Trump getting on the Qatari jet, right? The new Air Force One. Here's the airport catering truck. I'll get out of the way. Here, how about this? You guys can have the whole screen. So you can see the catering truck, right, just underneath the aircraft on the other side, right? There's a better shot that you can see. Here's the media, right? So there's the press corps boarding the plane. You can see the airport catering truck pulls away at the exact same time on the other side, right? So Trump is on the plane and off the plane before the media boards. So they don't really know what to suspect. They don't know what happened. He could be locked in his room, whatever the fuck, which was, I'm sure, part of the plan here. And it goes on. So media is still getting on board in the back. Trump's being taken away on the opposite side in the front of the plane. You can now see the catering truck here, the airport catering truck on the left side of your screen, going over to, and you can just kind of make out, I think, the body of the smaller C-32 underneath, which is what this square is showing you here. I think those are the steps that you're looking at in the background just by this gentleman's head, right? So this says, as you can see on the top, 6 minutes after Trump boarded Air Force One. You can see the catering truck was being led what looked to be by a Secret Service agent, right? Which would be a kind of a clear giveaway. I don't know if necessarily the catering truck is going to be flanked or led by a Secret Service agent every single time. Probably more an airport security or an airport worker, somebody tasked with that specific thing. But yeah, this is the airport catering truck being led by a Secret Service agent. You can still see it there, pulling over. Secret Service instructing the cars in the foreground to move away. You can see the stairs here of the other aircraft, and then you can see the airport catering truck at the rear of the C-32. I believe that would be after. This might be after they had already dropped him off onto that plane. So again, these are the lengths that the Secret Service, the United States government, and Donald Trump had to go to in order to ensure his safety while leaving everybody else exposed to that, what they were taking seriously and legitimate Iranian threats to this specific aircraft that they thought Donald Trump would be on, and nobody knew otherwise. So if the plan was real, if there was some legitimate threat that the Iranians were, and plan that the Iranians were going through with, and they thought and continued to think that he was on that plane, it would have been everybody on that aircraft to pay the price. Meanwhile, Donald Trump would have been on the C-32 there. But I think there was a couple other things from this. Let me see here. This was, and as much as I dislike this guy for being a Russian, a Russian simp most of the time, I think he makes some pretty good points here. He says, the leader of the free world had to sneak out of a NATO summit hidden in an airport catering truck. You cannot make this up. This wasn't a war zone, hostile territory. It was Ankara, at a gathering of the most powerful military alliance on the planet, surrounded by the exact people whose entire job is keeping him safe. And still the big plan was to fold Trump into a food cart, wheel him past the cameras like a low-budget spy movie, and quietly slip him onto a different plane. Meanwhile, the reporters were parked on a decoy Air Force One with the shades pulled down. I'm sure you'll recall, Donald Trump being asked by one of the reporters in the in the press interview, the press gaggle that he gave when he returned back to the Qatari Air Force One. And they were asked, well, why the hell did we have to pull our shades down? And Trump, well, I don't know. I mean, if they asked you to pull, you must have been some serious because you're in a dangerous plane. And, they didn't ask me to pull my shades down because you were on a different plane, dickhead. Like, of course they didn't ask you to pull your shades down. They did ask the press to pull their shades down so they didn't see the transfer, didn't see the handover, or see Donald Trump walking his fucking fat orange ass around the C-32 parked right next to them, And it says, all of this because Iran made threats credible enough that that the most protected man on earth looked at his options and went, you know what? The catering truck it is. Excuse me. Trump spent half his time talking tough on Iran, big words, big threats. And when it came to actually leaving Turkey, the move was to hide in the sandwiches. And like I said, everybody kind of recognizing the lengths that they had to go to in this one, while also being like, well, you don't seem to be treating, and why would you, why would somebody that's taking threats this seriously against his life from the Iranians, from somebody, again, that they have credible evidence to suggest that they would actually try to go through with something like this, why would that same guy do away with the investigation into the supposed alleged shooter that was trying to take him out in Butler? Right? Like, why would that investigation not go forth? Why would the president of the United States, that, again, allegedly respects and wants his life to continue, based upon the lengths that he's willing to go in this specific situation, why would he not want that investigation to go forth? Why would he want more? Why would he not want more answers as to why that took place? Why would he not want more as to maybe somebody else involved? Was there another bad actor paying, what's his name, Crooks there? Like, oh, what, like, this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't line up whatsoever. And there was even one here. Let me see. I think I'm probably jumping ahead. Yeah, we could probably take a look at this right now because this is, just kind of confirming that even more. I think you'll remember at the Butler incident, Corey Compatore. Oh, hold on. I think it says it lost my audio connection to my browser. So I'll pull this back up real quick. Share this back on your screen. Because she, the wife of the fallen firefighter at the Butler event there, Corey Compatore, I believe his last name was, if I'm not mistaken. She did an interview, I think earlier last month, I think early July, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Yeah, July 13th, 2026, right? And she was speaking to News Nation, and even she brought up the fact that she believes that this was an inside job, right? She believes that it was a complete and total failure by the Secret Service and that it was an inside job. Like the government either possibly knew about it or orchestrated it. Like even she is bringing up these, like somebody that was at the Trump event, somebody obviously that either believed these things or supported her husband's beliefs of these things enough to go to this event with him. And she sat down for an interview with News Nation, and even she expressed her doubt about the legitimacy of the story that's been given surrounding this event. So let me see if hopefully this stayed at the right moment in this interview. Let's see here, just real quick. See if this works. Come on now, you can do it. No, I knew it. That's why I wrote down, I think it was at 2:21. Yes, let me go to 2:21. Turn on the sound. That would help as well. But I knew it wasn't going to cooperate, so I was smart enough to write down the exact timestamp. So 2:21 in this interview, we'll go to right now, 2:17, 2:19, close enough. All right, here we go. And again, this is the widow, like I said, of Corey Compatore, the firefighter that was killed as a result of the shooter at the Butler event at Donald Trump's speech there. So this is her in early last month, July 13th to be specific, sitting down with News Nation, expressing her doubts, expressing her disbelief in the story that was given, the way that the Secret Service handled this whole situation, and kind of, the general surroundings of this whole event. So if she's kind of raising these red flags, if she's raising these questions, what else is going on behind the scenes? Because these are the people that have been brainwashed and propagandized. And again, even if she doesn't espouse these same beliefs, she was more than willing, more than ready to be there by her husband's side at this event, because he believed these things, because he espoused these beliefs and believed in these policies. So if they're kind of having these second thoughts of, okay, this isn't like, the fucking, that it's starting to smell a little bit fishy as to what's going on and what's being said, much like the surroundings of the Charlie Kirk murder as well. But yeah, take a look at what the widow of Corey Compatore had to say about her, thoughts on the general story surrounding this Butler event.
I mean, if they would have held him back off that stage and not let him go, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today.
So she's speaking specifically about the Secret Service's handling of this. They spoke prior, just before we cut in there, about the lack of communication between the Secret Service and the local police that day, and how there was I think it was like 105 phone calls and some 33 text messages in that vicinity about Thomas Crooks prior to the shooting, of people being like, hey, there's a suspicious guy walking around, or a guy using a drone, or a guy on a roof, like those types of things. And I think only 3 of those text messages in about 2 or 3 of those phone calls ever made it through to Secret Service, which still shows that they were alerted. And what she's saying there is all they had to do was keep Donald Trump off the stage, and I would still have my husband, right? I wouldn't be sitting here giving this interview talking about how I'm a widow because this event was so botched and poorly handled by Secret Service, law enforcement, Donald Trump's administration, et cetera, et cetera.
Himself remains shrouded in mystery. Authorities still haven't publicly identified a motive for his attempted assassination of President Trump.
You've expressed belief that the gunman, Thomas Crooks, didn't act alone.
I don't believe there was another shooter there, but I believe that he was working with somebody. I believe it was an inside job inside the government somewhere.
I believe it was an inside job inside the government somewhere. Okay, like again, the red flags that are being thrown up even in these people's minds, like, should lead everybody to be like, okay, what's actually going on behind the scenes? Why is Donald Trump taking these threats from Iran so seriously? Why are they going to all these troubles and all, these levels that they're going to try to keep him safe? And he's now golfing with fucking anti-missile defenses following him around on the golf course. But again, he was allowed to just peek from behind the curtain at the White House Correspondents' Dinner shooting. He was allowed to raise his fist and get the perfect picture, yell, fight, 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 and ask for his shoes at the Butler shooting. Like, it doesn't seem to be like all of the threats of idiots rolling up to his golf courses, and he's still out there golfing. And it seems like the defenses he has aren't for people rolling up with, like, private arms, small arms, or rifles. It's more along the lines of like what the Iranians and what foreign adversaries would be sending over as far as threats. So it just shows you what he's more concerned with. And like I said, it kind of raises more questions about the alleged domestic attempts on his life than it does, give any answers. But let me see here. There was also, let me throw this one on too, because I think I wanted to, I think this is how Fox News was reporting on this, because even they had to report on this whole decoy plane. So let me see how Fox News had to kind of throw this at their viewers.
The Washington Post is reporting that President Trump secretly hopped on a different plane. Did you see this? To evade potential Iranian threats when he was leaving the NATO summit in Turkey last month.
Alex Hogan is live at the White House with the details. Alex.
Hi, Ainsley and Brian. So this reported maneuver would mean that the president's actual location was not disclosed to the American people or other U.S. officials for at least hours. This was the shot that took place.
Wow, look at him lumbering up the stairs, too. Like, these are the shots that he wants desperately for the world not to see. Like, this is exactly what we're talking about. Him struggling mightily to get up these stairs, legs not working right. He knows that people are watching him, and he hates it.
Last month, Trump boarded the old Air Force One jumbo jet, leaving the NATO.
Just like he has absolutely no strength left whatsoever in that left leg, or if it's more, consistent with just the left side of his body. I know a lot of people have speculated that he had a stroke, sometime in the not too distant past. So whether that's kind of affected more so the left side of his body or whatnot, or if it's just a more specific ailment, but he's definitely struggling to prop himself up on that left leg. A lot of people, like we've talked about, have looked at the wavy way in which he walks. He's struggling to walk in a straight line, limping and stuff.
In Turkey, the Washington Post reporting because of an Iranian threat, the president was shuttled away in an airport catering truck. Those are typically used to move meals and other supplies.
The fucking president of the United States getting in an airport catering truck to then slink away to get in a separate, like there's ruses all the time, right? There's, 2 planes, 2 helicopters, double beasts. So there's things that the Secret Service has always done to try to, again, keep the enemies guessing, to make it so, not allowing the schedule to get out ahead of time, keeping the schedule changing, keeping the same time frame all the time. So there are things that but I don't recall ever hearing Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton getting into a fucking airport catering truck. I mean, it might as well been the airport truck that empties out the shitter. You know what I mean? That would have been so much more fucking spot on for this presidency if it was the one that sucks out the shit from the plane, right? It empties out the bathrooms from the plane because, you've seen those, right? I mean, it happens. You got to do it. It's a thing that happens. People go and you need to remove that. So they got equipment that goes up and they hook up to a fucking spot in the plane and they suck out, much like you got to do in a camper. If anybody's got a camper, you go to the sites, you got to do your deed. It is what it is. But if it would have been so much more beautiful and chef's kiss if it was the shitter truck that Donald Trump had to slink away on. But it's still very fitting that it was the food truck, being the fat fuck that he is, But just wild shit that, again, is just not going to get the wow cover that it deserves because of all of the nonsense, the craziness, the lunacy, everything else that this administration has brought forth, to our political zeitgeist. This is insane. It is. Yeah. Stick me with the fucking tacos so I can taco away to that small aircraft over there while leaving all of my staff in the press corps on this plane that doesn't have the necessary and proper air defenses to mitigate against the threat we find very credible. The whole thing is fucking wild.
Eyes on board pre-flight. Fox has not been able to independently confirm that the president was actually on a catering truck. But according to the Post, the president was then taken to a different, smaller plane, an Air Force C-32A. Quote, according to the U.S. official and corroborating material reviewed by the Post.
It's not cardboarding. It's corroborating. I don't think they're using cardboard material to review at the they could be. I'm not sure. Maybe they're struggling over there at the Post and everything they do is on cardboard, but that word is corroborating. So according to the U.S. official in corroborating material reviewed by the Post, that made Air Force One a decoy with media and some White House staff aboard. Again, a decoy, which you'll know, is just which is bait. Okay, another word for that is bait. So we're going to send up this huge fucking airplane filled with staff, media, the people that just, are on there to help the plane function and for any, necessary emergencies that come up, during travel. Like all of those people are on the fucking bait ship. Those are the people up there. You know what I mean? Meanwhile, Donald Trump is sitting on the cheeseburgers on the catering fucking truck, getting shuffled off to a smaller plane because the threats are found to have been credible.
That made Air Force One a decoy with media and some White House staff aboard, the official said. The White House spokesperson, Stephen Chung, issued a statement saying this, as the president has said recently, there are many enemies of America who have the sights on him, and we use every tool at our disposal to address those threats.
Right. So, again, using the press corps and my administration and the people in my staff as scapegoats, as decoys, as bait, as it were. So they get taken down. The president stays safe on that other aircraft. So there was Fox News trying to, again, spew that to their audience and spin it in the best possible way. There was a couple other ones that I wanted to take a look at as well, if I'm not mistaken here. Like I said, I pull so much up to try to talk about during the show. Let me see if I can throw this one on. Midas Touch posted a truly wild story. This appears to be the order of operations. Trump flies to Turkey and the new Qatari gifted Air Force One for the NATO summit. An Iranian assassination threat triggers a secret deception operation. Security officials devise a plan to conceal which aircraft Trump is actually traveling on. The Qatari gifted Air Force One leaves Turkey first without Trump. Trump publicly boards the Legacy Air Force One in Ankara, walking up the stairs and waving for cameras, creating the appearance that this is his plane home. Let's see. Trump secretly exits Air Force One through the other side of the aircraft and gets into the airport catering truck raised to the airplane's door. The catering truck drives to the smaller C-32, modified 757. Trump secretly boards the C-32. Defense Secretary Seg Hegseth also boards separately. Reporters and some White House staff board the Legacy Air Force One, unaware that Trump is no longer on board. And it continues here with a timeline of what we just went over there. This is the story that Trump came up with about RAF Mildenhall, basically wanting to see the aircraft. That's why they sent it there and had nothing to do. And then if you recall, this is Donald Trump just after when they landed, trying to make it seem like he was on the plane the entire time. You guys remember this little interview that he gave, this little press gaggle that he gave, and they're like, "Why did we have to shut our shades? That was strange." And he's like, "I don't know. You're on a dangerous aircraft. I wasn't. You're on a dangerous plane. I wasn't so much on a dangerous plane, but were you guys in danger?"
Given the pictures that you can see now, it makes what the president told reporters in that gaggle afterward all the more noteworthy.
You're saying there wasn't a security concern?
No. Why would
the question, you saying there wasn't a security concern? No. Everything's all set. Everything was fine. I love riding in catering trucks. That's all. And it was fun to kind of deceive everybody as to what plane I was really riding. The big joke. Also, RAF Mildenhall, they really wanted to see the plane as well. Kind of, I think.
Why they had us close our window blinds? That was not usual.
Well, yeah, because you're probably on a dangerous flight because of the sleazebags that we have to deal with.
So acknowledging that they were on a dangerous flight there. Meanwhile, again, he slunk away next to the burritos, tacos, and cheeseburgers. See if there's anything else from this. I thought there was a couple other posts that I wanted to go through as well. But like I said, there's so much that I have pulled up. It's tough to get it all. Was it this one here? Extraordinary reporting. No, I think I have that whole one pulled up anyway. Trump hid in a catering truck to dodge Iranian assassination threat. That must have been the other plane that was on the other side, the modified 757. Benny Johnson, we'll take a look at him in just a second, having to admit defeat. But yeah, there was one more. There was this one. There was the News Nation one that I wanted to talk about as far as Corey Competore. And then I believe there was this one as well. Let me see if this pops up again. Get rid of these. Get rid of those. Is this ever going to come up? No? Hello? You can do it.
Boarding on an elaborate ruse to conceal.
Zip it. Stay. You stay there. All right. So, yeah, this is just a quick CNN clip here where they talk about this exact reporting as well. So I just want to see if there's anything that we missed, anything that we need to go back over, anything that stands out. And, again, this is talking about how Trump used the catering truck to take a secret flight from Turkey. And this is from the Washington Post reporting that we were just talking about. But I want to see if there's anything we missed.
The secret plane that President Trump used to fly out of Turkey last month. The Washington Post reports this tonight, saying, quote, an Iranian assassination threat against President Trump prompted an extraordinary operation in which he flew secretly from Turkey on an alternate military aircraft while the White House said he was aboard Air Force One. If you look back at the video from that day now, you can see how this clandestine mission played out. President Trump was seen boarding Air Force One at 8:24 p.m. local time on July 8th. But actually, according to the Post, and you can see here, Trump and several of his aides were secretly shuttled minutes later onto this airport catering truck, which was elevated and positioned at a door out of the view of the cameras. Now, the Post reports that the president was on that catering truck when it pulled away from Air Force One at 8:30 p.m., secretly bringing him to a smaller plane, an Air Force C-32A, making the Air Force One that everyone thought he was on a decoy that still had the reporters who thought the president had boarded that plane and who you see boarding right here on the right, and some White House staff aboard. The Washington Post reports, and I quote, the maneuver meant that the president's actual location was concealed from the American public and many senior U.S. officials for hours. Air Force One then landed in the UK hours later. Now, it's still not clear, as the Post notes tonight, how the president was transported from that other secret plane back onto Air Force One after it landed.
Oh, please let it be the shitter truck. Please let it be the porta potty sucker outer at the airport. Please let it be one of those. And we all know, Donald Trump's thoughts on airports. You guys know Donald Trump's thoughts on
Our
airports.
Army manned the airports. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything it had to do.
It did. It really did, and it shuffled him out on a catering truck to a plane so that he could feel safe. Meanwhile, basically just leaving his staff and the press gaggle there, the media press corps, to be sacrificed on their own. But that, we all know what Donald Trump thinks about airports.
You see here, the reporters captured the president getting off the plane that they thought he had just flown on with them to the UK.
I mean, and look at the way that he's coming down off these stairs. I mean, talk about gingerly. Like, it couldn't be. And there's two things. Again, it's his physical decline and obviously his, long-standing fear of falling flat on his face down these stairs in front of cameras. So that's, it's, I don't know if it's probably like 60-40. It's like 60% his physical inability to do it anymore, 40% his fear, maybe 75-25, something like that, in that vicinity.
Coming down the stairs just before 11 p.m. After greeting American service members on the tarmac, Trump got on the new Air Force One jet. That's the one that was given to the president by the Qatari government. And then he flew back to Washington. Now, the plane that he's getting on here is not to be confused with the old Air Force One decoy or the military plane that he flew on secretly. But it was when the president got back on this plane to fly home to the U.S. that he was asked by reporters why they had been told to lower their window shades on that first flight, which is extremely unusual and not typically something that happens for the press that sits on the right side of the plane, which is where that airport catering truck was, now that you look back at that other video. But given what we know now, given the pictures that you can see now, it makes what the president told reporters in that gaggle afterward all the more noteworthy.
Again, that was the clip that we just showed there from the one previously. But let me see here. There was another one, and I think this was also not just specifically about the the catering truck situation, but more about how we're stuck in the Middle East and how Donald Trump continues to be embarrassed by Iran, Oman, and everything else that's going on. A lot of, like I said, these countries in the region are now more likely to accept the Iranian control over the strait as the new future, as the new norm, much more than they're ready, willing, and able to see escalations in this continue the way that it has up until this point. But this was Preston Stewart, and he's detailing basically, and this is titled, "We're Stuck in the Middle East Again." So this is just a little bit more from the recent reporting of how Donald Trump was trying to piggyback off the backs of the discussions and negotiations going on between Iran and Oman, and how the United States is rapidly being cut out of this situation, whether it's by Israel, whether it's by Iran, Oman, and the different Gulf nations that are more ready, able, and willing to accept this new future of Iran and Oman controlling the Strait of Hormuz in conjunction with one another than they are, kind of ready to see this war continue, the futile, basically war with no benefit to be seen whatsoever in Donald Trump's just maniacal view of world domination and sucking up all the oil on the planet, apparently. So this is the position that Donald Trump has thrust us into. This new norm that we have consistently been telling everybody will remain the new norm, that Iran will get enriched from. They're going to get some sort of lifting of sanctions. They're going to get the frozen assets. They're going to get this, that, the thing that they've been asking for this entire time. If we want to see this strait opened up, and it's going to be more and more countries putting pressure on the United States to be like, okay, we're not going to follow your plan. We don't want to see any more war. Just give them what they want. Let's open up the strait, and let's get back to whatever normal we could possibly get back to. So I just want to see real quick what Preston has to say about this, and then we're going to dive into Donald Trump's ridiculous ass of reparations for a war that we started, which is just, again, a ridiculous response to this new slap in the face that he's seen by Iran in this situation. But let's go through this just real quick.
Iran. President Trump will not accept Iran's newest terms, as that would signal a clear U.S. defeat. However, a significant escalation to actually change the dynamics of the war also seems unlikely. That leaves us with how things sit today. Iran has de facto control of the Strait of Hormuz. Sanctions will remain in place, and economic relief will not be granted. But real nuclear negotiations probably aren't coming together anytime soon. Now, President Trump remains optimistic just a few hours ago, stating, quote, "It will work out. It always works out," end quote. Now, there's been a lot of back and forth in recent weeks that we're on the verge of a deal and just give it another 1 or 2 days, or strikes are going to happen. But here we are. Nothing's really come in any direction. What we have seen is some progress between Iran and Oman, putting together a deal to manage traffic through the Strait of Hormuz on their own. And even that has been a little bit muddy. We haven't seen the full context quite yet Iran has
No, and it needs to be said that both sides are not equally, but are both delusional in some way, shape, or form as to the power that they hold. A lot of what Iran's asking for is just never going to be agreed to by the United States. Regardless how much we want to see this war ended, and think that Donald Trump needs to find an off ramp, like the fact that they're not going to allow U.S. ships, or there's a bunch of things on there that are just non-starters right off the bat that kind of shows that the Iranians are not only trying to vie for time, but that's their plan. Like, their whole thing is to extend this as far as possible, knowing that they have time to play with and the United States does not, knowing that the Republicans have midterms coming up shortly. The Iranians don't have to worry about that being, firmly in control as far as the regime is concerned. So, again, there's been reporting to suggest that the Iranians are willing to wait out Donald Trump. Totally, and that's throughout his presidency. So for another 2 years or so, they're willing to wait this out, and we don't have that amount of time. We don't have that time to waste. We don't have that time for the economy to be under the pressures that we've seen. We don't have the time for the the CEOs and the billionaires to artificially keep the oil prices and gas prices even at the extent of where they are, but not exponentially higher, twice, three times what they are now. Which is, again, something that Benny Johnson even kind of, talks about and comments on, is like how weird it is that, with all the instability and the no deal in the near future, that the prices are as low as they are. But that's these billionaire friends of Donald Trump's and people that are not only trying to, buy low and sell high and trying to, play the fluctuations in the market, but are also really listening to Donald Trump about, like, okay, a deal is going to be done, or we're going to be done with this in a day or two. So, don't freak out. Don't raise your prices. So we've seen and we've talked about that. And a lot of people have looked at kind of like the artificial price of oil and how it's not lining up with what we're seeing in reality. Like, if we saw the prices and what they were after Russia invaded Ukraine and how much pressure that put on the world economy. And now what we're seeing with all of the instability in the Middle East, the wars that Donald Trump's gotten us involved in, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait trouble, the Strait of Hormuz trouble, and it's still in the 70s, 80s, like something's not lining up, really.
That the United States is not involved in any way in those talks, that it is purely between Oman and Iran. We've also heard from Iranian.
That's exactly what I pointed out the other day. Remember when I said, hey, what's that say on this Fox News report? What's that say up top? It says Iran and Omani plan. Does that say United States anywhere? No, because again, people are more and more willing now to cut out the United States, not even listen to Donald Trump's bullshit, not need his approval on anything. In the case of Benjamin Netanyahu, like, it's just more and more we're being kind of thrust into this fucking area of obscurity by Donald Trump and our allies and everybody else on the world stage.
Officials that there will be some degree of tolling, as in paying to use the Strait of Hormuz as a part of the agreement. Big picture, they have continually said traffic through the strait will not go back to what it was before the war. In the United States, we've had a number of officials say that Iran will not be tolling the strait. It's kind of a he said, she said at this point. Again, to stress, Iran has made clear that the United States is not a part of those negotiations right now.
The United States is not a part of those negotiations, yet Scott Bessent wanted desperately to have you believe that a deal was going to be done around the corner, yesterday, today, tomorrow, a week ago. It's any second now. You blink and we're going to have a deal done. They were literally trying to piggyback off a deal that was detrimental to the United States, right? The one that said Russian and Chinese ships weren't going to be tolled, right? The one that said that United States vessels wouldn't be allowed through the Strait of Hormuz. The one that said Iranian frozen assets were to be returned, that all sanctions should be lifted, right? That's the one that they were like, okay, everybody sit down. You're sitting down? Okay, we're going to have a deal any second now. This thing's, we're so close to having this ready. That's the deal that they were piggybacking off of. Now they're like, oh, no, those are non-stop. It's like, well, you were just trying to, again, manipulate the market the other day by saying a deal was right around the corner. And now when we get the terms of the deal, which have been the terms of the deal for quite some time now by the Iranians, all of a sudden now you're like, oh, no, we can't possibly do that. It's like, Jesus Christ, they don't understand what. And then this is the response by Trump. And like I said, hopefully this stays in the same spot that I wanted it to stay at, because I pulled it up so goddamn long ago at this point. Is it going to do it? Yeah, all right. So this is Donald Trump's response to this whole thing, where he's seeking reparations for a war that he started. Let me just repeat that. Donald Trump is now seeking reparations for a war that he started that has afforded Iran basically their own geographical nuclear weapon with the control over the Strait of Hormuz. Now it's Donald Trump asking for reparations. Listen to this shit. He says, I see that representatives of the Islamic... He still can't get the name of this country right. For God's sakes, Donald, get it right. I see that the representatives of the
Islamic Republic of Japan
are asking for compensation for the damage done to them during the last 5-month military conflict. Started because they will not have a nuclear weapon, all in caps. Donald Trump wants you to remind you, even though he's been more and more quoted and reported on as being willing to get out of this without any resolution to the nuclear agreement, without any denuclearization to speak of, has been more and more reported from people behind the scenes and closely affiliated with Donald Trump. Says, even though it was never mentioned in any of our negotiations or meetings, but it is an interesting idea because now I am likewise demanding compensation from Iran for all of the people that they have killed and gravely wounded with their roadside bombs in many conflicts for which they are famous, as led initially by General Soleimani, including the families of those killed on the USS Cole and thousands of others killed in combat. Additionally, compensation should be paid to the families of the hundreds of thousands of innocent protesters that Iran has killed over the last 50 years, not to mention the 52,000 that have been killed in the last 5 months. I have instructed my representatives to put this firmly into any and all future negotiations, yada, yada, yada. Thank you for your attention. So again, a war that we started, Donald Trump's trying to, again, throw a wrench in the gears here, a wrench in the works by asking for reparations for the damage that we're responsible for, damage that we that we did, okay? A war, a feudal war that has created the instability in the Middle East that we engaged in, that we started, we initiated. You know what I mean? So it's just, again, the planet that Donald Trump lives on has yet to be named right now. It's like he is just in an alternate universe along with the rest of his cult. And I have been consistently bringing up the point and talking about and making the comparison to Donald Trump and his maniacal view, his absolutely psychotic dementia that he's going through right now, and the people surrounding him with how Hitler was in the final days of World War II, right? We continue to bring up the Magda and Joseph Goebbels example where, they were so brainwashed and deluded and, so desperate not to see a world without National Socialism that they literally eliminated their entire bloodline, killed, poisoned their children, and then took themselves out because they didn't want to know a world without Adolf Hitler. They didn't want to know a world without National Socialism. So I've been making that comparison, and apparently I'm going to take credit for this. I doubt it has anything to do with me, but like I said, it's the internet. People take credit for weird shit all the time. So I'm going to say that this guy is a fan. Whoever put this on YouTube is a fan of blunt politics, is a fan of this fucking community that we've built here because they've been listening. So apparently, and this is one of my favorite movies of all time, not just dealing with, World War II, but just in general. This is from the movie Downfall. If anybody hasn't seen this movie, and you have an affinity for history, if you have, kind of a curiosity about World War II, you're curious about the final days of Hitler and what it may have been like in his bunker as the Russians were closing in on Berlin, I would point you in this direction first and foremost, because not only is it a fantastically done movie, but it gives one of the better portrayals of Adolf Hitler in any movie, documentary, series, anything that I've seen. What's the guy's name? I'm forgetting now. Is it Bruno Gantz, if I'm not mistaken, who portrayed Hitler in this movie? But anyway, getting sidetracked, they put together a clip from this movie. And hopefully, I'm assuming since it's posted on YouTube, it's okay for me to play it because it's been changed a little bit. So listen to the words, listen to the translation, right, of this part of the movie. And this is the part that we continue to reference where Hitler's, advising his generals, ordering his generals to move around different armies, different militaries that no longer exist, that have been long wiped off the face of this planet by the Russians or the Allies. But nobody has the balls to tell Hitler. None of the generals have the balls to say, nope, they don't exist. This war is over. We've lost. It's kaput. Like all of these things. But they've changed this to Adolf Hitler being Donald Trump. And what they're speaking about is the Iran war. So I'm going to hop out of the way. And if you need, in case anybody's listening, I'll read out the captions on this. But the way that they redid this in relation to Donald Trump and the Strait of Hormuz is chef's kiss, is beautiful, is perfect. Because listen to this scene in the movie, and again, I'll read out the captions as they go along.
Es ist dem Feind gelungen, die Front in breiter Formation.
So it says, Iran.
Im Süden.
Why doesn't it pause when I want it to pause?
Es ist dem Feind gelungen, die Front in.
There you go. Iran has struck 3 oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, it says. And again, this is to set the scene where Hitler has called this meeting in his bunker, and he's trying to, again, strategize on what armies he could maneuver to try to block the Russian horde, the Russian invasion into Berlin. Meanwhile, none of those armies exist. They have been, like I said, long erased from the theater of war by the Russian military, if not the allies on the other side. But nobody has the balls to tell them. So we're starting here with Iran has struck 3 oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, and we'll continue.
Breiter Formation zu durchbrechen. Im Süden hat der Gegner Zossen genommen und
that's Fegelein. That's Fegelein that you just saw walking in the background. That was Eva Braun's brother-in-law, if I'm not mistaken, and he was the one that Hitler actually ordered the assassination of just at the end of World War II because he deserted his post and was caught pottying it up, so to speak, and not doing what he was supposed to do. But anyway, let's continue here because it says their drones, missiles, and sea mines have effectively shut the strait, and they're relating that to the defense of Berlin.
Auf Stahnsdorf vor. Der Feind operiert jetzt am nördlichen Stadtrand zwischen
20% of the world's oil supply is suddenly off the market. They're instructing and they're informing Adolf Hitler in this case, which would be Donald Trump.
Hanau und Pankow. Und im Osten ist der Feind bis zur Linie Lichtenberg.
Oil is spiking. It could be double to $150 a barrel.
Karlshorst gelangt.
Mit dem Angriff Steiners.
So now this is Donald Trump's response to all of this. He says the Navy can just escort the tankers. Problem solved, which is, again, a very apt comparison to the response that Hitler gave, even in this movie, which was, don't worry about it. We'll just move these people here. Tell this general to move his military over here. Tell the 6th Army, tell this army, and everything will be fine. And, the generals look at each other like, I don't know what this fucking guy's talking about. Like, does he not know they're all dead? Like, we don't have any armies to move anymore. That's it. Like us in this bunker, that's our fucking army right now. So, but again, the way that they do the comparisons is very well done on this.
Wird das alles in Ordnung kommen?
So look at them. They're all like, so in the movie, he's given a response like, don't worry about it. We'll have this person go over here and he can defend against this attack, and we'll have a counterattack by this military. And they're all, the generals are looking at each other like, fuck, like who's going to tell them? I don't have the balls to tell them. Do you have the balls to tell them that they don't exist anymore? And they don't, because they're all cowed, right? This is what a cult is. They don't have the ability to go against the Der Fuhrer, the Der leader. And this is much like, Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio and Scott Bessent surrounding Donald Trump today in this war against Iran, not having the balls to tell him what an absolute fucking disaster this has been and how we need to get the fuck out of this as soon as possible before it gets any worse, right? It's such an apt comparison. I love it.
Mein Führer.
My Führer, and it says, Mr. President.
Steiner konnte nicht genügend Kräfte für einen Angriff massieren.
And this is, again, where they finally get the balls to tell him Steiner's not going to have the ability to fucking produce a counterattack. Like, he doesn't have the men, the equipment, the manpower to put together. So this is finally where they get the balls to tell him that, the counterattack that you ordered didn't go forth because it doesn't exist. And then you'll see the reaction from Bruno Gantz, I believe I'm getting that right, who in this case is supposed to be Donald Trump. Again, I know it's kind of, if you're just joining us, you're probably confused. But if you go back, it makes sense. And he's saying that the escorts will sail into an Iranian kill box, which is informing Donald Trump about the escorting of the ships through the Strait of Hormuz, that the Iranians still have the Shaheds, still have the ballistics and hypersonic missiles to shoot down or to sink our ships. So that's the equivalent. That's the comparison that they're making here. Like informing Donald Trump, like that's not going to work. Like that might work for a couple days. We might be able to get away with that for a little bit and give ourselves some time, but that's not going to be a permanent solution. Like we're eventually going to see a United States warship get sunk in at the bottom of the Strait of Hormuz. And this is, again, a very apt comparison to make.
Der Angriff Steiner ist nicht erfolgt.
It says the strait reopens on Iran's terms or the war continues, thus, filling him in on the reality of the situation on the ground. So this is Trump finding out that this is a feudal war, that he's been lied to. I mean, you can compare this to Donald Trump's fight with Pete Hegseth at Camp David, right? This next blow up that you're going to see, this is Donald Trump exploding on Pete Hegseth at Camp David because, the war hasn't been finished yet. He was told that it was going to be a 2-day excursion. He was told that they have the necessary stockpiles as far as the military is concerned. Pete Hegseth promised him how quick this is going to be. Wasn't going to be a problem. They were never going to close the strait. They would never have the balls to shoot a missile into U.S. bases. They would never attack our U.S., the Gulf allies in the region. They would never shoot a missile at Dubai or Qatar or UAE or Saudi Arabia. They would never attack Jordan. Like, these are the things that Donald Trump was being told. So this next clip is basically Donald Trump flipping out at Camp David. And with the shakes, with the health concerns, I mean, again, the comparisons are crazy. We're living through history right now. We are actively living through history that will be talked about for generations. I hope everybody understands that. Like, this is, and any maggot that might be watching, any fucking moron that may be, filtering through this on their YouTube feed sometime later that doesn't agree with this, like, you point out where these comparisons are wrong. Like, talking about the health complications at the end of his life. Right? Hitler, obviously, with the, the Parkinson's that he suffered from, the shaking hand that he kept behind, obviously the cocktail of drugs that Dr. Theodore Morell had him under. I mean, just the numerous amounts of things talking about, Adolf Hitler's health at the end of his life. And now we're talking about Donald Trump's health at the end of his life, like his age combined with the cognitive decline, combined with the physical decline. Right, all of these things, the shaking, the fucking, the bruising, the slurred speech, the inability to complete a sentence. Like, this is the comparison here, and it's so well done. It really is.
Es bleiben im Raum, Keitel.
So he says, these men will stay. And he's actually, in reality, in the movie, talking about Keitel, Gerbs, Bregdorf. I think he keeps Goebbels, and there was one other person that they keep. Bormann. I think he keeps Bormann in the room as well.
Jodl.
But what they've changed this into is that it will be Witkoff, Kushner, Hegseth, and Rubio that are going to be that will remain in the room.
Krebs. Und Burgdorf.
So they know they're fucked. They know they're about to get, a right good whipping by Adolf Hitler in the movie. But in this case, in what we're talking about here, Donald Trump as the war in Iran is concerned. And this is, again, Witkoff, Rubio, Hegseth, the people that told him that this was going to be a breeze.
Das war ein Befehl!
So he says, you told me this war would be over quickly. You said Iran would capitulate like Venezuela.
Ein Befehl! Wer schickt sie?
Now we're telling the public it'll take 4 to 6 weeks?
Dass sie es wagen, sich meinen Befehl zu widersetzen! So weit ist das also.
Midterms of this year and gas prices are soaring. And again, that's Troutl Young here on the right-hand side. That's who this movie Downfall basically follows. Her, recounting of being Hitler's secretary towards the end of the war, and in the bunker at the very end of the war. She's on the left, and her other secretary is on. She's on the right, and her other secretary is on the left-hand side. And this is basically the moment during World War II where these people, the cult in the bunker surrounding Adolf Hitler, finally recognized that the war is lost. That there's no hope left, that everything is gone. There's no army coming to save them. The Russians are going to be there any moment now. And this is the moment where they realize, where they finally hear Hitler talking about how he's been betrayed. And this is, again, talking about in right in line with what we heard about the reporting from Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth at Camp David, and how Donald Trump's been pissed off behind the scenes at everybody that told him that this was going to be over quickly, and he was going to have this great, military victory that he could go into midterms talking about and touting, and it's been anything but. As if oil stays this high, we're looking at a recession. Again, going back to, Donald Trump and the war with Iran. I tricked him with no more forever wars, he says. Why did nobody tell me Iran would close the strait?
Mein Führer, ich kann nicht zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie verbringen.
It says General Kane warned that Iran would retaliate, which is, again, what the reporting suggested early on. So it says regime change was Netanyahu and the Wall Street Journal's idea, not mine.
Mein Führer, was Sie da sagen, ist ungeheuerlich.
It says, Mr. President, you approved the attack. We killed the Ayatollah Khomeini and replaced him with his son. And listen to what it says here next, and we can end on this one. So he's just as hardlined as his father, he says. Again, recognizing the futility that Donald Trump's trying to get across, that we have enacted some sort of regime change over there in Iran. Iran says they will stop retaliating if we pay reparations. But we can't even pay reparations to African Americans, it says, and it goes on to make some other points there. But I just thought it was a very apt comparison. A movie that I am very fond of, and I think it does a very good job of kind of expressing the historical realities on the ground at that time and what people were actually experiencing in the bunker, surrounding Hitler at the end of World War II. A lot of excessive drinking, a lot of removing yourself from the reality of the situation, a lot of delusion, a lot of suicide, things that were, actively taking place that don't necessarily get talked about a lot, with the cult at the end of the road. You can talk about, the number of cults that, we've been made aware of and how it didn't really work out so well at the end for them. But again, I would point anybody and everybody in the direction of that movie. And, it's called Downfall. Once again, if you want to learn a little bit more about, I think it's the last, I want to say 10, maybe 2 weeks or so of Hitler in the bunker as the Russians were closing in on Berlin. So I just thought that was very well done. Credit where credit is due on that one. I should give them. Let me throw this back on the screen real quick. I just want to figure out what channel this was, so I don't want to. This is Moral Panic, 14 subscribers. So obviously, if he continues to put out work like that, that is so, well done and, kind of an apt comparison to make. I think he'll have far more than 14 subscribers in no time. This has 10,000 views. This was 4 months ago, too, right? So I don't know how long we've been talking about it, the show, but I'm going to continue to tell everybody that's because we've been talking about it. But all right, let's jump into this because, right in line with this disastrous war in Iran, here's Benny Johnson seemingly admitting defeat. So admitting that Donald Trump's willing to walk away from this war with absolutely no goals achieved. Nothing obtained that he originally stated this war was about, not the denuclearization, not regime change, not the civil unrest that he was hoping to stoke up where the people were going to rise up and overthrow their government and all of this bullshit. None of that. None of that happened. And this is Benny Johnson forced to acknowledge that. Like he's not, like I said, he's not wording it that way as far as it being a defeat. He's not wording it as far as Donald Trump being a pussy-ass bitch and tacoing out of this war. He thought he was assured to win. But it's definitely what he's bringing up as far as the facts that he's talking about. So, again, just a couple minutes of this douchebag admitting defeat. And he's posted this and saying Trump walked away from Iran war. So, again, if he thinks that's a flex, I'm not sure.
Oil is cratering and stock futures are skyrocketing, and that can only mean one thing. President Trump is ready to walk away from the Iran war.
And listen to what it says there. I don't know if he's going to continue to read this, but it says, willing to walk away from the Iran war, quote, without a nuclear deal. Okay? Without a nuclear, Donald Trump's main talking point that he's had consistently throughout this time, they can never have a nuclear weapon. 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 That he's willing to walk away from this whole disastrous war without seeing any resolution to that problem. And this is Benny Johnson having to admit that to his fucking audience from the Wall Street Journal, which is, again, a Rupert Murdoch owned publication. So this is no, lib left-wing publication. This is the Wall Street fucking Journal that we're talking about. And they're reporting on how Donald Trump's ready to walk away from this. Also reporting that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, is trying to find an off-ramp to this desperately because he knows the futility of continuing on with this war. And it says the details include the objective reportedly became more difficult yesterday when Iran insisted on the highest price yet for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran smelt blood in the water. They have continued to smell blood in the water as it pertains to the U.S. military and Donald Trump. And they have acted accordingly to put the most pressure and to get the most in return from this fight as humanly possible, whether it's the control of the strait, the $400 billion of frozen assets that they're going to get back, the lifting of sanctions, the ability to sell oil, whatever we're talking about, it's all going to be good for the Iranian regime and the Iranian side, and not any benefit or goals achieved by the United States. So I want to see if he says without a nuclear deal to his audience here. We'll go 5 seconds back and see if he says it.
President Trump is ready to walk away from the Iran war. Whoa. Donald Trump saying it's over. I'm not going to mess around with this anymore. We're going to low-key it with Iran. And ladies and gentlemen, the markets love that.
So before he goes on to the markets, and even he recognizes that something's fishy, something don't fucking smell right as far as the price of oil right now in comparison with, the dangers that we're seeing on the ground, the remainder of the Strait of Hormuz being closed, hundreds of vessels passing through that when it was wide open, now down to single digits if we're fucking lucky. And somehow the oil markets and the oil futures have remained somewhat consistent. They've fluctuated right between, if bombings start happening, you'll see it fluctuate $10, $15, $20. And then Donald Trump will announce a deal and it'll come down $10, $15, and then it'll go back up. But to the extent in which we thought we were going to see it at $150, possibly $200 a barrel, that hasn't quite come to fruition. And people have started recognizing that what we're seeing on the ground and where the prices should be are not lining up. And that's the oil conglomerates and Donald Trump's billionaire buddies trying to do whatever they can to make it seem like this is, somewhat stable, hoping that a deal will be done and they can go back to normal and nobody will be any the wiser. But obviously, the longer this goes on, the more fishy it looks to everybody that the prices have stayed within the variance that they've been in. And even Benny Johnson now recognizing this. But talking about, and he failed to mention the nuclear aspect of this, like I thought he was going to. So, talking about Donald Trump walking away, but not recognizing and talking to his viewers about how this is going to be without a nuclear deal, which is, again, just how there's nothing left after that. There's nothing left for him to spew to his viewers, to spew to his cult as to why he got involved in this war if there's no nuclear deal. If there's no handing over of the nuclear dust, as Donald Trump calls it, if we really didn't, eradicate their capabilities of coming up with the nuclear, it's a total and complete failure that wasted 18 servicemen, the lives of 18 servicemen and women, if not more, depending on how much they're lying to us, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of U.S. service members that were injured, a lot of the times, and in a lot of cases, severely injured. With injuries they'll be dealing with for the rest of their goddamn lives, coming out of this with nothing in return. And Benny Johnson failed to adequately relay that to his audience as we suspected they were going to. But here's Benny Johnson recognizing that even the oil futures, even the oil markets doesn't seem right. Something doesn't seem right.
That you can see here, crude oil futures. Let's go ahead and zoom out year to date. So right now, 75, 77, 75. Back here, when gas was $2 a gallon, it was 60. So we are getting close to that $2 sweet price per gallon.
Are we? Hold on. Let's just take a quick gander, ladies and gentlemen. Are we getting close? Let's go AAA fuel prices. Let's see if we're getting close to that $2.50 mark. Are we? No, that says $4.11. So that's nowhere near $2.50, and that's actually higher than what we saw the last time that we looked at it. So a week ago it was at $4.08. Yesterday was at $4. Today at $4.11, right? And that's compared to a month ago at $3.88, and then a year ago at $3.13. So Benny Johnson here lying through his teeth about where gas prices are at. But again, even he is recognizing that with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz still being a thing, how the oil prices have remained at the levels that they're at doesn't really make sense. Play. You can play. You can do it. You can do it, Benny. You can do it any day now. Maybe today.
We just need this war to wrap up in the Strait of Hormuz to open up, and it'll go right back down to it. It's amazing. The strait is practically closed right now, and it's still headed in the right direction.
Even he notices. You see that? So he's like, wow, it's crazy how the Strait of Hormuz is still closed, but even the oil prices seem to be heading and fluctuate in the right direction. So that's him literally recognizing that the reality on the ground, the fact that the strait's still closed, the fact that the Bab el-Mandeb and Houthis are starting to get more active, the fact that we still have the war in Ukraine raging on. Like, this isn't, the markets should be higher, right? They should be a lot higher. It's not really making much sense to people that have been, following these markets, that are experts in this field. Like, there's a lot of, boondoggling going on behind the scenes, let's just say, to try to hopefully keep this at a certain level until some sort of deal can be reached. And they thought the deal that was going to be reached was going to happen a long fucking time ago. So they've been kind of, carrying this torch for the administration, like, okay, we'll jump every time that you say a deal is going to be done, but fucking one of these times you got to produce a deal. And they continue to do this fluctuation. Meanwhile, gas prices, on the other hand, haven't been doing the fluctuating that the oil prices have. So you can see the oil conglomerates, the oil companies, the CEOs are more than willing to jump inside of Donald Trump's asshole to follow all of the bullshit propaganda and misinformation that he's putting out there. But what you guys and everybody else is paying at the pump is not so quick to react. Like, they seemingly recognize the futility of raising the prices down and up as you hear these stories come out and the reports come out and Donald Trump's bullshit come out. So this has stayed, pretty high, right? We're talking about over $4 a gallon. We're talking about $5.58 $5.58 in California, $4.76 in Nevada, $4.66 in Oregon, Washington's $5.14, Utah $4.33, Colorado $4.24, Arizona $4.35, Alaska $4.78, Hawaii $5.44. So again, people still feeling the crunch and the pinch at the pump, around this fucking country. And that seemingly hasn't fluctuated to the way, to at least in the way that the oil markets are. But this is Benny Johnson actively recognizing in real time that there's something fishy going on behind the scenes as far as the oil markets are concerned.
Again, the stock market responding to this news, looking very, very strong. President Trump telling the Wall Street Journal he's going to walk away from the war with Iran, telling Axios, I'm going to low-key it. It'll work out. It always works out. It's like a chess game, Trump says.
I don't understand. I don't understand these fucking people. I never will. I never have. It doesn't make fucking sense to me. This is Benny Johnson reporting that Donald Trump is ready to tuck his fucking tail between his legs and run the fuck away like he did on the catering fucking truck at the airport in Turkey. This is the capitulation by Donald Trump in this war that he started, that Benny Johnson is reporting on, but not accurately reporting on, right? So he's trying to make it seem like this is a great thing. And again, getting us out of this situation in any way, shape, or form that doesn't involve more loss of life, more, destruction to infrastructure in the Middle East, more devastation and destabilization in the Middle East is a good fucking thing. But to not recognize that this is a clear capitulation, a clear defeat, a clear loss by the United States in this engagement, in this conflict, in this excursion that Donald Trump was calling it, desperately trying not to call it a war, is absolutely asinine. And you have to be a propagandist. You have to be willfully ignorant to the facts, to the reality on the ground in order to make a video like this, like Benny Johnson is making, to basically and literally be reporting on the capitulation, the surrender, the waving of the white flag by Donald Trump, walking away with zero, zilch, nada, not a fucking one, zip of the objectives, of the goals that they originally had stated, the reasons we went to war in the first place, is fucking ludicrous. You have to be an absolute psychopath in order to make this video with a straight face and not report on this like it's an abject fucking failure. like is a complete and total loss that cannot be reversed, and that we have to, at this point, recognize that Iran has won. And the less that they come out of this with, the better. Like, that's the only option left here for the United States, is making sure that somehow Iran is given the least of its demands that we could possibly get away with while ending this war and still reopening the strait, right? That's it. That's where people are left at. And that's why countries in the Gulf region are now starting to be like, okay, I am much more ready, able, and willing to go along with the Iranian control of the strait, much more than I'm willing to stand next to the United States and follow along with whatever maniacal plans that Donald Trump is surely to come out with to try to make it seem like he achieved victory in this some way, shape, or form. So that's the position that we're in right now. And this is Benny Johnson literally recognizing and reporting this to his audience and not really understanding what he's talking about, apparently. Either that, or like we continue to say, he does very much understand what he's talking about, and he's willfully trying to obfuscate what's happening for his audience to make it seem like this is like some enormous victory and Donald Trump's this great military strategist and genius. But that's not what we're seeing. It says Iran very close to deal with Oman in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran very close to deal with Oman. The United States not in that whatsoever. It says Hormuz opening link to compensation for U.S. violations, says Iran. Aragchi temporary Hormuz route to be a basis for main route. Again, showing ownership and control over the Strait of Hormuz by the Iranians and the Omanis. And this continues on here, talking about the different ships that have been struck as well. But we could talk about that. Again, here's another report by a known again, somebody that I can't stand, but, you know, when a broken clock is right, seemingly a lot of people seem to be recognizing the futility of this Iran situation. So can't stand this guy, but seems to be right, at least on this point. And he's talking about the oil market as well. So going back to what Benny Johnson was just discussing, he says oil is doing something weird right now. The Strait of Hormuz is basically shut. A deal keeps slipping away, and yet Brent is sitting near 88 and still miles below last month's 100 plus and May's $110 peak. So again, recognizing the oddities, we'll just say, in why the oil futures market has been at where it's been at, even though we've seen consistent fluctuations, but not to the extent in which a lot of people had suspected. It says, the reason is that traders are betting on a fudge, some kind of messy half deal that lets a bit of the oil flow through the strait again. So they're pricing in the happy ending, not the reality on the water, and the reality is grim. Just 6 ships crossed the Hormuz yesterday. Pre-war, it was about 130 to 140 different ships that were crossing and traversing the Strait of Hormuz pre-war. And this says, what kept prices this calm is a stack of cushions, alternative export routes, softer demands, extra production, and above all, China. And we've talked about this again, how China stockpiled a shitload of oil and were basically helping in some way, shape, or form the world economy and the oil markets more specifically to not just combust, to not just go like nuclear for lack of a better term. And that's kind of it says Beijing single-handedly balanced the market in May by slashing its imports, but those imports are climbing back through July and August, and crude can't stay down forever. Meanwhile, Trump is playing it cool, telling Axios that he's, quote, low-keying it and leaning on economic pressure rather than fresh strikes. Tehran isn't blinking. If the standoff drags into Q4 and inventories keep draining, analysts see a tipping point that could send oil to $120 to $140 per barrel, which we have long suspected would be the outcome. But again, we've seen these different tactics being used by different people, both bad actors and good actors, to try to keep that down to a relatively stable point. It says for now the market's pricing in optimism, but optimism has a poor track record in that strait. So again, more based off of the lies, promises, and misinformation told by Donald Trump than the realities on the ground. And again, just to show you what is continuing, might not be getting the headlines, but this is continuing. It says this is from U.S. Central Command today at 6 p.m. Forces began launching new airstrikes against Iran at the commander-in-chief's direction. The strikes, and this was July 18th, but this is the one that I wanted to look at. My apologies on that one. It says breaking X. After repeated tanker attacks, ship explosions, and strikes near the Strait of Hormuz, oil slicks are now reaching the beaches and islands like Kashem and Shivdar. So again, this is evidence of the ships continuously being struck, not only in the Strait of Hormuz, but also in the Bab el-Mandeb as well. So why we're seeing the easing of the oil futures markets when this is the reality on the ground. If a deal is going to be done, it's between Iran and Oman, not the United States. We still have the Bab el-Mandeb to deal with. We still have the Strait of Hormuz being closed. But somehow people are more likely, and these oil conglomerates and oil CEOs are more likely to listen to Donald Trump's bullshit than the realities on the ground. And here's another one. Tankers explode in the Strait of Hormuz, leaving Iran beaches polluted with oil. What a disaster. Multiple oil tankers have been damaged or exploded in or near the Strait of Hormuz due to military strikes, projectiles, and naval mines. Reports indicate that the oil slicks and coastal pollution are impacting shallow waters and beaches in the region. Iranian islands and local coastal areas face growing environmental pollution and oil contamination on sandy beaches, threatening local marine life and sensitive habitat. So again, just showing you the ongoing workings here. That says from August 9th, so just 2 days ago, an oil tanker is burning in the entrance of the Strait of Hormuz after being struck by Iran. The vessel was hit off Oman's Musadam Peninsula, a strategical, critical location overlooking an entrance to the Strait of Hormuz. And I do believe the Houthis have recently carried out an attack. I'm sure the Hormuz letter might have this reported, that killed, I believe it was 4 going through the Bab el-Mandeb, going through the Red Sea there. Let me see if I can pull that one up. Jared Kushner's $5 billion. Let's see here. Privately signaling he's willing to end the war. This might be, let me just type in the Houthis. Might be easier to bring up. Houthis 4 dead. Let's see here. Creevy, July 29th, January 1st, February 16th, August 10th. Yeah, I'm probably not going to find it in time. August 9th, Houthi commanders killed in recent strikes have buried as casualties, continue to mount. 5 dead. That was in April, though. Houthis, we'll do Red Sea, see if that brings anything up. Yeah, I think this is the one that I'm talking about. This is just 21 minutes ago. Houthi strikes Saudi-linked ship carrying military equipment and fire in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. I believe this is the one that killed 4, if I'm not mistaken, 5 hours. The Gulf energy producers have completely lost faith in Trump administration and are quietly, yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier, right? This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. So all of the different people now involved in this, whether it's the Pakistani mediators, Iran, Oman, Gulf nations, are saying the same thing, right? So listen to this. It says, breaking. Gulf energy producers have completely lost faith in the Trump administration and are quietly accepting Iran's permanent control over the Strait of Hormuz because the alternative, which is returning to war, would be worse. It says Gulf states don't like the emerging deal that formalizes Iranian oversight of inbound ships, but they see it as the least bad option compared to further military escalation, which would put their energy infrastructure at risk. Conflict has left the region vital to global energy security with no good option for countering Iran. The numbers are stark. Crude exports through the Strait of Hormuz has collapsed to 2.2 million barrels per day from the 8.5 million a month ago. Pre-war flows of roughly 20 million barrels per day are now a distant memory. Gulf states' alternative export routes are also under attack. Saudi Arabia's Red Sea pipeline hit by the Houthi strikes. Egypt's Damietta port struck by drones. Iranian officials have declared the new Iranian order in the strait is irreversible, and the U.S. has no alternative but to accept it or face costs much greater than in the past. Iran already holds effective control over the strait, with commercial shippers refusing to cross without Tehran's assurance. So, again, that is the reporting coming out from basically everybody involved in this situation, showing that they have no more trust in what the United States is going to do, and they're much more willing. And this is what I was talking about. This is 6 hours ago. Missile hits Saudi vessel, fatalities, 3 crew killed in the Red Sea attack. Houthi involvement reported. Missile strike on Saudi commercial vessel in the Bab el-Mandeb. 3 dead, 2 Pakistanis and 1 Indonesian. The Red Sea is becoming a war zone. Situation is escalating fast, which, again, if you've been listening to this show, we have continuously and consistently warned about. It says this was 3 hours ago, reportedly struck a vessel off the coast of Yemen in the Red Sea. This is the Houthis again. The attack reportedly killed 3 crew members, 2 Pakistani nationals and 1 Indonesian nationals. The incident adds to the growing tensions and risk to commercial shipping in the Red Sea. So why the the oil markets are doing what they're doing is kind of anybody's guess. Well, not anybody's guess, but is more done to the dealings behind the scenes more than the reality on the ground. But all right, let's see here. I know I'm out of time, and I'm probably going to run over here a few minutes, but it is what it is. So let's see if we can get into this new detailing here. Let me see. I'll put this one up first. Should I do this one or this one? Don't mind me as I just talk to myself. I'll throw this on the screen real quick before we do the Denis Davidoff video, because this is at least a step in the right direction. We have been consistently bringing up the problems, the big danger faced by by Ukraine in general about the inability to shoot down the incoming ballistic and hypersonic missiles launched by Russia. We've talked about the shortages that they've faced, Patriots and THAADs and everything else. Well, we've also talked about how they need to, and I'm sure are trying to behind the scenes, figure out some other ways in which to mitigate the damages being faced here, whether that's going after the supply chains for the missiles, going after the factories, going after the launch sites, finding some sort of European equivalent to the Patriots or THAADs that could help in some way, fill that void, at least bring up the percentages of Russian missiles that are able to be intercepted up more than they are right now. Well, this is what was released and is being talked about by President Volodymyr Zelensky. And this may be why we've seen a little downtick in the Wildberry factory strikes, going on from one targeting package to another. They may be trying to reconvene their forces, come up with a new tactic, come up with new target sets, and go after, again, these launch sites to try to, in some way, stop or help reduce the damages being faced here by these basically nightly missile attacks. It says, Zelensky says Ukraine will target Russian ballistic missile launchers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Ukraine's military will actively target and destroy Russian ballistic missile launchers located on Russian territory to reduce devastating strikes on Ukrainian cities and critical infrastructure. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Ukraine's military will actively target and destroy Russian ballistic missile launchers, and again, any of the critical infrastructure associated with those. So, again, I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention to show you that clearly, they have some of these tactics being thought about behind the scenes, and hopefully we see those kind of being employed sometime soon, where they can stop or at least, again, hamper a little bit of the Russians' capabilities of putting in these ballistic and hypersonic missiles into cities like Kyiv, Lviv, and obviously many others in and surrounding Ukraine. But all right, let's dive into this Denis Davidoff video here. Detailing, what's this one going through? Oh, yeah, this is the Russian convoy. Again, a little bit of a change in the tactics that we've been seeing on the front lines in this fight. It's been a lot more of the smaller groups, the smaller infiltrations, the smaller attacks. And this is a pretty substantial armored convoy, or at least wheeled convoy, that the Russians have put together that apparently was thwarted very effectively by the Ukrainian military. And I just want to let friend, and I hate covering up as they're doing this. I feel bad when they give these reports. So let's see if we can do it like this. As Dennis gives us a rundown of how the Ukrainians put down this ambush, put down this convoy by the Russians. Let's check this out real quick.
Hello, my friends. Just look at this huge Russian convoy. This is not an AI or something. This is the real thing. Russia grouped all together those light armored or unarmored vehicles like Bukhanka vans, Lada vehicles, and many others. And they were visited by Ukrainian drones. This is crazy. And they did it really not that far away from the front lines. Look at the smoke coming. So the convoy was absolutely ambushed. The job was performed by the 1st Ukrainian Azov Corps. They were marvelous there. And Russians, they don't have electronic warfare on those vehicles. Or maybe if they have, it is usually not working. It's the first time this year I see this kind of the convoy being ambushed. This is crazy. And what type of the vehicles are out there? Well, the signal is lost, the very moment of the strike. And you see, this is the machine vision.
And they look like fucking Mad Max type of vehicles, right? I mean, the doors are off, making it so they could get into and out of these vehicles quickly if, in fact, they do spot a drone coming their way. But they look Mad Max-ish. A lot of them covered with this, the metal shielding and the netting. to try to hamper the effectiveness of the FPV drones, the kamikaze drones that will be actively seeking them out. But it clearly was not effective, whatever deterrent systems that they have in place or don't have in place. Clearly it wasn't effective, as a substantial portion, if not the entirety of this convoy, seemingly was taken out piece by piece by the Azov battalion here.
Is flying on its own, locked to the target. And what is this BMW battle motor vehicle, or yeah, vehicle after vehicle after vehicle? This video is crazy. So Russians, they've lost everything.
And again, you can tell that these are not your average military type vehicles, right? I mean, these are just anything that the Russians can get their hands on. Take the doors off so you get ease of access, so you can exfil if you need to. And then hopefully we can stick some troops in the back, get some equipment in the back, and make it through the front lines, because they know it's going to be targeted. They know it's going to be fucking hit. And there's a very small, low likelihood that these actually make it to their intended target. So they're not really able and willing to put across these, the armored, the APCs, the tanks and stuff like that, to lose those. But they're more than willing to sacrifice these, these civilian vehicles that I'm sure they've commandeered in the occupied territories that they're, that they're now in.
Crazy. So Russians, they've lost everything. This convoy was like more than 40 vehicles, it seems like, according to the latest information published by our guys. And the location where it happened is between Novoekonomishna and Nova Poltavka, so-called Russian-controlled
territory. You can see here, in case you're not familiar with the area, the Dobropilia section we've talked about quite a lot. Being a very highly contested area of the front. So if you're looking for something to kind of, Pokrovsk is down here to the south. You got Rishny, Rodinsky. So again, if you're trying to, locate yourself on the map and where we're talking about, that's kind of the few noticeable areas in and around this event.
Territory, fully red. This place is not that far away from Pokrovsk. Mirnograd is somewhere here, and Russians tried to accumulate the forces for the attack towards Shakhove. But before, they failed with one more major attack where they used their tanks, T-72B3 modification equipped with Arena M system. Even though it worked, but it was not enough to shut down all of the Ukrainian drones, and tanks were flatlined as those vehicles I just showed you. Yeah, let me show you on this map. So
again, in case you're struggling through his thick accent, he's talking about how these tanks were kaboomed, as he calls it, taken out, and they did not have the efficacy of getting their target achieved or taking out the Ukrainian drones in the area. So, like I said, I just wanted to go through that quick update on the Russian convoy that was taken out. I know I'm over, so I'm trying to fly through a little bit here. And then just to kind of, before I get you guys out of here, here's a little bit of an update surrounding Crimea, because we try to, again, dive into the different aspects of the war. It's tough to fit all of the updates into one show. So typically one show will cover the frontline movements. Next show, we'll cover not only the frontline movements, but the effective Ukrainian strikes into Russia. And then we'll talk about Crimea. So we try to keep everybody up to speed and involved on all aspects of the war, but, just doing it, through bits and pieces, as it were. But this is Battle Plans Exposed. We use a lot of these videos trying to get updates on the front lines, some of the logistics and what the plans are behind the scenes a lot of the times by the Ukrainian military, so we can be kind of one step ahead, so we know what to expect coming from them, which is why, we bring up the point in which, Zelensky's talking about going after these, the missile launch sites, the missile launchers themselves, which we've been speculating on. What is the next move by Zelensky and the Ukrainians going to be in order to find some, mitigatory resources to stop these, or not stop, but to help hamper a little bit of these ballistic and hypersonic missile attacks by the Russians. And, wasn't long before we started seeing this coming out as far as their plans behind the scenes. But all right, and I'll let you go on this one. The Battle Plans Exposed. This is more detailing what's going on in and around Crimea. And like I said, we'll get through about a couple minutes of this, give us a quick update, and then we'll start thanking everybody for either the Venmo, in case anybody was nice enough to utilize the Venmo, which is up in my right-hand corner. I believe your left-hand corner, if I'm not getting that backwards. But that's the quickest and easiest way to send over a buck or two to the channel. If you find some value in the show, if you find some benefit to the show, if you like the community and hanging out with the family that we've created here, then if you can send in a buck or two, if you're in the financial spot to do so, that's probably the quickest and easiest way. And then we also thank everybody in the YouTube chat that sent in a super sticker, a super chat, reached a milestone, anything like that. We do that consistently at the end of every single podcast to make sure that anybody involved and affiliated with keeping the show running gets the appreciation that they deserve. So, all right, let's just go through a couple minutes of this. And this is titled "The Master Plan to Strangle Putin's Peninsula," talking about Ukraine cuts off Crimea and how the Kerch Bridge is undoubtedly coming more and more into play, just basically left there to give the Russians in Crimea a way to escape, right? So basically actively letting them know that what's to come, and if you want to take your ass out of Crimea, now's the fucking time to do it. So we're keeping this highway open for you, and at some point, we're taking that bitch out. So I think that's kind of what it reports here.
Ukraine isn't just collecting tactical drone wins, they're dismantling the shield around the Kerch Bridge piece by piece. This strike isn't an isolated event. It's part of a broader methodical campaign. The final straw will be the Kerch Bridge, and that has got a psychological impact as well.
The final straw will be the Kerch Bridge. So, as people have long suspected, the bullseye is still firmly implanted, still firmly aimed at the Kerch Bridge. But again, letting the Russians that have actively seen what's to come and want to get the fuck out of harm's way, the ability to do so. But it's the time is swiftly running out for those people.
The military impact to Vladimir Putin. Let's take a look at the latest developments from the Crimea Peninsula, where fresh Ukrainian precision strikes continue to cripple Russia's supply lines. As we touched on at the start of this video, Ukrainian forces have delivered another targeted blow to Russian air defense envelope over occupied Crimea, bringing Kyiv one step closer to isolating the peninsula. Ukraine's military intelligence agency, the HUR, reports that its drone operators successfully struck key elements of Russia's S-400 Triumph air defense network during a nighttime operation on the 26th of July. According to the HUR's Unmanned Systems Department, the strike destroyed two critical pieces of military hardware: an S-400 launcher and a 96L6 target acquisition radar. To understand why this matters, you have to look at what the 96L6 radar actually does. It's essentially the eyes of the S-400 system. It operates in the S-band. It can detect aerial targets.
In general terms, just continuing to blind the Russians as far as their ability to detect and deter any of the incoming, Ukrainian missiles or drones that are continuously attacking not only the Sea of Azov, the Black Sea, Crimea, the supply routes into Crimea, both from the north, and obviously any trying to attempt to make their way in, through sea as well. We've talked about the different what do they call them? The barges that were hit that were trying to get the equipment into Crimea as well. So a lot of these different aspects continue and just kind of, continuing to degrade Russia's capabilities in the Crimea Peninsula while they continue to see the Kerch Bridge in sight sometime soon to be taken out.
Up to 300 kilometers away and track up to 100 objects simultaneously. Well, so they say. And that's supposed to include low-flying aircraft, drones, and high-speed ballistic missiles. But clearly, it missed the drones from the HUR. Taking out that radar leaves the rest of the battery effectively blind. And the launcher it supports is no small asset. The S-400 Triumph is Moscow's premier long-range air defense system, capable of engaging aircraft up to 400 kilometers out and intercepting ballistic threats at ranges of up to 60 kilometers. This strike isn't an isolated event. It's part of a broader, methodical campaign. In recent days, Ukrainian forces have also hit a Russian drone control relay station, an energy facility belonging to the Chronomorno Afogaz in occupied Crimea, and conducting a long-range strike against the Tyumen oil refinery. A critical fuel.
Just systematically picking apart Russia's capabilities in Crimea. And again, this is on top of all of the different aspects of the war that we continuously talk about. Like, we have the ability to sit here and talk about these in separate shows. Like, we can cover we can cover what's going on in Crimea, and then tomorrow we'll talk about, what's going on the front lines. They're doing this all at once. all at once. The Ukrainian military is focused on oil refineries, energy facilities, the wild berries, resupply into Crimea, S-400s, all of the air defense systems. Now, like, this is a big task, a big plan that they've undertaken here. And the efficacy in which they're able to carry it out is again astonishing, and also dealing with other issues, also dealing with all of the frontline movements, also dealing with the ballistic and sonic missile attacks in their key cities as well. So all of these things happening at the same time. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to try to cover. There's good things happening. There's bad things happening. There's things that give you hopefulness, like they give you a reason to believe that things are going in the right direction, and there's things that bring you back down to the ground, bring you back to reality, as it were. So we try to cover all of the different aspects, both bad, good, and different, to keep everybody up to speed. But I apologize for keeping you guys a few minutes over today. Thank you guys for sticking with me as you do. A big shout out to everybody that watches through the entirety of this show. The barnacles in the chat, as they're called, very much appreciated as you guys stick around and go through all of this information, because a lot of it is very important to me. I am very passionate about that, and I very much appreciate anybody that supports those passions, even if you may have other things that you're worried about or other things that you're thinking about. But for you guys to stay here and keep speed and up to date on all of these things, it really means the world. And to be here at Blunt Politics, getting the information, going through the news, going through the craziness with me and the family that we've put together, I will never be able to adequately express my appreciation and gratitude for this community and for the people that continuously hit that like button, that subscribe to the channel. 3 free things that you could do to really help this channel is just like, subscribe, and hit that alert bell. Again, we're trying to beat the algorithm. We're not doing it the way that the algorithm wants us to do it. We're not showing you guys a ton of ads. Any ads on my side, again, I can't control, the YouTube side of things, but, there's no added, disruptions. There's no added ad revenue coming in here. There's no mattresses being sold, anything like that. We don't charge for the Substack. There's no content hidden behind a paywall. We talk about very important and very, I don't know what you'd want to call it, these topics that are divisive in a lot of these ways, talking about Israel, talking about Gaza, talking about Ukraine, talking about Trump, talking about the corruption. Like, a lot of these things don't actively get pushed out there by the algorithm, especially if you're not making money for YouTube or making money for Twitch or, Facebook or, any of the other sites that we're on. So if you guys could help and just kind of, make up a little bit of the lost ground, where we understand that if you don't play by the rules of the capitalists of these corporations, then you're not likely to get boosted to the front of the, to the front of the class, as it were. But if you guys could help mitigate that, if you guys could like, share, subscribe, continue to comment, throw a comment on after the live gets posted, if you can clip the show, all the power to you. If you guys are good at that, if there's anybody in the chat that's good at, putting out clips, and if there's a funny part of the show, if there's an informative part of the show, if there's a beneficial part of the show that you think other people could learn from, clip the shit out of it. Throw it out on social media. Tag me. I will share it out there if and when I see it. So I very much appreciate you guys, everything that you do, the buds, and obviously the entire community here. So let's get on to Venmo, see if there's anybody kind enough to send in a buck or two to say thank you for what we do here, so I can say thank you for being a part of the community right back at you. So let's see here. Of course, Bry Guy, let's go. Much appreciated, as always, for the $5 Venmo. Much appreciated. He says, 5 for Bry to get a cool beverage. Slava Ukraini. Heroyam Slava. Right back at you, B-Man. Much appreciated. And then Dame, thank you so much for the $25 through Venmo. Help cover all those shipping costs you mentioned last night. Well, those for the... we were talking about just the added cost of everything and how expensive everything was last night during the Zoom. And I am sending out right now just some stickers and some tote bags for the people in the Patreon levels. And it is astronomical what it costs to send just a sticker and a tote bag. Like, one group gets a sticker, the other group gets a sticker and a tote bag. And the cost associated with just getting everybody, their own sticker, their own tote bag is fucking insane. It is absolutely, I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it. You guys have shown the utmost amount of support, and it is the least that I could possibly do to show my appreciation, to give you guys back some perks. But it was a lot more than I had anticipated or planned for. Let's just say that. But again, everybody's noticing that with any aspect of your daily life, no matter what you're doing. If you're shopping for groceries, if you're filling up for gas, if you're, buying your kids clothes, if you're buying them fucking school goods and shit, like everything's exponentially more expensive than even it used to be a short time ago, and it's crazy. It is crazy, but happy to do so. Love the community that we've built, especially the YouTube members, the members at the Patreon. You guys are the bone of this community and continue to be the reason why the lights stay on, the microphone continues to work, we have a computer working, and we have some food in our stomach. So, like I said, one of these days, going to be at a position, going to be at a subscriber level where we don't even have to worry about it anymore. We're not even going to talk about it. You guys will know what to do, the liking, the sharing, subscribing, and we'll have enough people just sending in a buck or two. We'll have all the resources. We'll be able to fly to different parts of the country to cover these important news stories. We'll be able to continue going around the world as we do to try to help out with different fundraisers, different campaigns, raise awareness, bring you the news, like so many different things that we'll be able to do. And unfortunately, money is the root of all evil, but also money is the thing that can open those doors and open those opportunities for us to do that here at Blunt Politics. So, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. I hate doing the self-promotional bullshit. It's probably why I haven't made it to the levels that I wanted to make at this point yet, but I am who I am, and I can only do what I can do. So much appreciated to everybody on the Venmo side of things. Damon, Bry, thank you so much. And then, as I said, going through the last couple of days, Jenny Faye and Corey, thank you to Thomas and Victoria. Thank you to Roger and Karen. Thank you to Allison. All of the people that we consistently name basically every single show that keep this fucking thing going. So, all right, let's hop over here to the YouTube side of things and see who we can thank. Lucius, thank you so much. Let's go, Lucius, with the 2 jewels to start with the big silver star. Much appreciated. Followed up closely by Colleen's incredible and substantial $50 super chat. Let's go, Colleen. Thank you so much. Big shout out to you. Big salute. Much appreciate everything that you do for this community. And she put in a very poignant thought as well. We were talking about Donald Trump's mental decline. We were talking about him falling asleep in the Oval Office. Probably the most blatant piece of evidence yet that we have of him falling asleep blatantly in the Oval Office as people are talking around him and cameras are there and everything else. And Colleen states that she's been she is a retired 32-year registered nurse, and in multiple areas of hospice care, she had the opportunity to be around patients quite like this, and that they had much more mental capacity and clarity than Donald Trump does, not only in him, but his entire administration, which I think is, what everybody else is recognizing and seeing right now as well. But Colleen, thank you so much for not only your comment, but definitely the incredibly generous $50 contribution. Very much appreciated. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nola, as well. Right back at you. Hi, and thank you for the $5. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here with us. Thank you to Rachel. What's wrong with the sour Skittles? Nothing's wrong. I love sour Skittles, but everybody knows it ain't happening. The roof of your mouth and sour Skittles, they just don't mix. You can only get through a couple of them son bitches before you start feeling like you're chewing on razor blades. And I love that pain. Again, I'm a sucker for that pain. I do enjoy it. I'm a candy guy through and through. You know what I mean? So I'm not bagging, not ragging on the sour Skittles, but just it felt like it matched with the razor blades and nails and the screws that I was talking about chewing on. and again, just to fill everybody in case you joined late, I was saying I would rather chew glass, I would rather chew on nails and razor blades mixed in with sour Skittles than I would rather hear RFK Jr. speak for even 2 seconds. So in case you joined us late, that's what we're referencing here. But absolutely nothing against sour Skittles, Rachel. I appreciate you defending them, though. Much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you, David, for the 666. Let's go. 666 just became Mr. Crowley. Shout out Ozzy. Sorely missed. But shout out to you, David. Hope you had a great 70th birthday. Again, W's in the chat, and a shout out to David for his birthday that just passed recently. Seems like he survived. So again, the alcohol didn't get him. I know it didn't. So I appreciate you at least letting us know a proof of life, David. Much appreciated. And thank you, Rachel, again for the 2 jewels and the sparkles. Much appreciated. Thank you, Tina, for the 10 jewels. Thank you, Rachel, right behind that for another $2 contribution. $3.92 at Cumbies, less at Cash Only gas stations. Are we still talking about sour Skittles? I mean, again, talking about the added cost of shit, right? I mean, who fucking, as a kid, could you even imagine paying $4 for some Skittles? Like, good Lord, that was you could get 2 Big Slams. Who remembers Big Slams? Showing my age on that one. Who remembers the Big Slams? Came in their own little case at the front of the store. Like, that was the shit. Those things were the shit. Now everything's just that size. But fucking almost $4. Almost $4 for some sour skits. That's a shame. That's when you know the world's going to shit. But thank you, Rach. I appreciate you very, very much. And we have to, I have to get back to you about what's going on with the Massachusetts primaries and stuff as well. My apologies. But thank you so much for your contributions today. Thank you, Bethany, as well, as always. Congratulations on being here for a member. For 23 months. My daughter's 29th birthday is today. Happy birthday. Well, happy birthday to Bethany's daughter. Shout out to you wherever you may be. Hopefully you're enjoying your birthday. You have an absolutely fantastic mom who is a very valued member of our community, and we can't thank her enough for being a member here for 23 months and obviously enlightening us to her daughter's birthday as well. So from everybody here at Blunt Politics to you and your daughter, Bethany, a very, very happy birthday. And hopefully everybody, gets their, gets their ability to party it off, right? I don't know what you're doing, Bethany, but I'm sure you're getting out there and celebrating. I can only imagine. Thank you, Gemini66, for becoming a new YouTube member here in our community. Very much appreciated. Great to have you with us. Hope to see you even more. Thank you, David Weiss, right behind that for another 666. I know you hate them. Have a lobster roll. Mayo, no Dukes for you. Glad you're back. Simmer back to your Boston Brian groove. Well, again, I don't do seafood. Never had a lobster roll in my life, so that's not going to be in my wheelhouse. I can tell you that much. Mayo or no mayo. But, I appreciate the contribution and calling me out as far as that's concerned. But thank you. And then to round it out today, thank you to Goa. Much appreciated for the 2 jewels and the silver star. Again, you guys too can get, kind of, let's see, not acquainted, not affiliated, involved, I think is the word that I'm looking for. You guys can get involved with the community here, get involved with the chat. You can send in jewels. You can send in bits on Twitch. Thank you to everybody on Twitch that gets involved in, getting us to the hype trains, getting us the bits. Anybody that subscribes over there on Twitch, you can utilize Amazon Prime, subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you a dime to do so. So that's a fantastic way in which you can help the channel as well. But thank you, guys. The Venmo is always up there in the corner, whether this is posted live or posted afterwards. You can just take a picture of that if you want to. Send a buck or two. If you think we're deserving of such, that's the easiest way to do it. Thank you to everybody that signed up just underneath me for a YouTube membership. Couple bucks. I think it's $2.99 for the month for the best bang for buck that you're going to get. I think we're still punching well above our weight class here at Blunt Politics. I think if we had a couple thousand viewers per show, I know I'm biased. But I think if we had a couple thousand viewers per show, I wouldn't bat an eye at that. I wouldn't think it to be foolish. I wouldn't think it to be strange. I think we talk about very relevant things here. I think we talk about them in a way that a lot of people are speaking about them in a normal, friendly, family type atmosphere where you're not afraid to speak your mind. You're not afraid to, tell everybody exactly how you feel, wear your heart on your sleeve type of aspect, and just, speak real. Like real human fucking beings, not like robots like the mainstream media, but real people engaged in real conversations. So again, if you find some value in the community, find some value in this podcast, if you like coming here and watching it live, engaging in the chat, or if you just watch it later and you're listening to it in the background, please, please, please like, share, and hit that notification bell. That'll alert you when I put out shorts, which we always do. I'm trying to. I know I asked you guys if you could be kind enough to slice the show up, but I also go ahead and slice the show up and try to get out any relevant or important shorts that I find during. So if you could watch those, if you could share those, if you could check out the Instagram, if you could follow us on Blue Sky, if you could follow us on Threads, follow us on Facebook, if you could boost our credibility there in the old social media atmosphere, that would be absolutely fantastic and very much appreciated. And thank you, Nancy. Let's go. You can't sneak that in there. I think I wasn't going to see it. Thank you for being a member for 16 months. Almost made it. You did make it. You did make it. YouTube. It's always here. And again, unless they kick me off, which hopefully doesn't happen. But thank you to Nance. Much appreciated for everything that you do for this community, as well as everybody else contributing. Thank you to the mods. Thank you to everybody that makes this a possibility. And I will see you guys tomorrow, twice, actually. We got a doubleheader tomorrow. We're going to see you at 1 p.m. Eastern here on the East Coast. That's 10 a.m. on the West Coast. And then we have tomorrow night show as well, where we kind of have the more laid-back edition, going through some of the nonsense and the bullshits and the crazy stories that we have to talk about tomorrow night at 8:30. So 2 opportunities tomorrow for you to chime in, to check in, to pop in to Blunt Politics tomorrow at 1 here on the East Coast, and 8:30 tomorrow night on the East Coast as well. So a big shout-out, big salute to everybody. Please stay loud, stay proud, stay aggressive, but stay informed and stay in the fight. That's the most important thing. No matter how tired you get, no matter how run down you get, just recognize it, feel it, recuperate, regenerate, go out and walk the dog, play around at golf, go out on the boat, take the car for a journey, whatever it be to get you kind of, recuperated for the next fight that we have to be involved in here as the opposition to the fascists now running this country. We need you here. We need you in the best possible condition. So please take that time for yourselves. Read a book, walk the dog, whatever it may be. Go to the zoo. I don't know. I'm spitballing at this point, but all right. I love you. I appreciate you. I respect the shit out of you, and I'll see you twice tomorrow. So hit that like button on the way out. Subscribe, like, share, hit that notification bell. It's all free to do. Doesn't cost you a dime, doesn't cost you a red cent, and it helps this channel immensely. So I appreciate you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. But stay. Make sure you fucking keeping your head on a swivel, right? Make sure you're staying safe out there. That's the most important thing. But get the fuck out of your seats and into the streets, because we're just not pissed off enough in this country. And I'll see you guys tomorrow here at Blunt Politics. My name's Boston Brian, and I really do appreciate you for taking the time out of your day. See you guys tomorrow. Head over to BostonBrian.com. All the merch you see on the screen right now available at BostonBrian.com.
Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
They're just getting acclimated. You know what that means, acclimated?
He builds the wall the way he built Trump Towers. He'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it.
Yesterday's a hard word for me. You'll have a group of Venezuelan killers, street gangs, occupying the town with MK-47s. I know that gun very well. I got to know it very well. I've become an expert on guns.
Go fuck yourself.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Never fight uphill, me boys. Never fight uphill. They were fighting uphill. He said, wow, that was a big mistake. He lost his great general. And they were fighting. Never fight uphill, me boys. But it was too late. Water coming here is dead.
My superpower is being honest. I will eat my neighbors.
I mean, they've been conserved since the time of lobsters, right? There weren't trees around when lobsters first manifested themselves on the planet.
It feels so lovely to be here tonight. What a beautiful... Give yourselves a round of applause. It's so lovely. Everyone's so lovely.
Tell the director to call the White House. Do your fucking job!
How do you lie to the FBI and now you're running for president? Seriously, how do you lie to the FBI and now you're running for president?
Here's a thought. Grow a sack, fill it with some balls. Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen. It's a new form of vicious violation to our country. God bless the United States. We're miners. Do we love miners? I love miners.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
You know, he wanted to debate. If we didn't have a debate, he'd still be there. Can you imagine if we didn't have a debate? Why the hell did I debate him?
When you ran out the healthy arms, you ran out of really healthy. They had great arms, but they ran out. It's called sports. It's called baseball in particular, and pitchers, I guess you could say, in really particular.